A man and woman ID'd as Kevin Shrek Lucas and Shireen Salandi were shot dead on Sunday morning in Sangre Grande. Lucas and Salandi were fatally shot at around 3 a.m. on Sunday while sitting in a parked car along Budu Highway in Sangre Grande. Police and paramedics were notified, however, both died shortly thereafter. Spent shells were also said to have been recovered by police. It is alleged occupants of a silver car pulled alongside and opened fire on the couple before speeding off. Lucas, 35 of Budu Highway, Sangre Grande, was seated in the front seat passenger, while Salandi, 37 of Faithful Hocketer, was said to have been behind the wheel. Lucas is well known to police. Meanwhile, another shooting earlier around midnight, David Best, 46 of Kumaku Road, Valencia, was shot along with 2 other people as they attended a wake at Kangley Street, Valencia. Best was a PH driver and died at the scene. The 41-year-old man of Cuba and a 30-year-old woman of San Juan were both injured in that incident. Police said the trio had been seated on chairs at a trio outside the house when 2 masked men dressed in police tactical and camouflage uniforms allegedly emerged from bushes and opened fire on them. The gunmen then escaped into the bushes. Investigations are continuing. In news of the region, Karali James is appointed the Order of the British Empire Civil Division in this year's Queen's New Year's Honours List. James was recognized for his outstanding contribution to sport over the last decade, during which he became the only man in Olympic history to win gold, silver, and bronze in the 400-meter event at the Olympics. The Queen's New Year Honours List was released on January 1st, 2022, and recognizes people in the Commonwealth for exemplary service and achievements in various disciplines. Mr. Solo, 2 clocked in the 130-mile-per-hour Class A, was the fastest powerboat to Tobago at the 56th annual Trinidad and Tobago Great Race held on Saturday. However, Limitless, competing in the 60-mile G class, was the first boat to complete the inter-island course. The popular event started from the Gulf of Paria, Bay in Tobago, and took Jesus coming back to second place. John came in third in the 60-mile category. Iron Man in the 120-mile category placed first in the B class. Kraken retained the special class, with Pandemic finishing second and Scapade third. Finally, Libya's central bank said the suspension of all operations after a senior employee was kidnapped in the capital, Tripoli. The bank denounced the abduction of its information technology director, Musaf M. Salim, in a statement on Sunday. They said he was taken from his home by an unidentified party on Sunday morning, and other employees have been threatened with kidnapping. And that is news to 6 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We'll have major news coming your way at 7 a.m. Good morning.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
After the hour is 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show on Power 102 Digital. All right. Full casting this morning. You just heard from Paul Richards. We'll probably hear from Richard Ragoobarsingh. He had his play last evening, so we're not too sure what he's doing. He said he may. Wendell Stephen will join us. Of course, we got Shane and Ruben in the mix. Of course, my name is Steve Khan. 24 degrees at Piarco International Airport, 26 at Crown Point in Tobago. And the Met Office yesterday said pretty much today is going to be like how it was yesterday. All right? So that's your weather. Traffic-wise, got nothing to tell you about at this time. Hope we see that in the next 3 weeks from today. We should, when school opens, what it'll be like. All right? Good morning to you, Pablo.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, my friend. What's happening? How was your weekend?
My weekend was quite interesting. Good morning, Wendell.
Wendell, you're wearing my shirt.
Good morning, Wendell.
Hi, good morning, guys.
No, you have to do that. That song too sour. Come,
Boarded.
much better.
I'm trying not to make too much noise.
I know you miss the PNM convention, but you don't have to be sour for that.
And what a convention it was, eh?
I don't know. I just saw clips
I
in
don't
news.
know.
Okay. I haven't seen much of it, but of course the make did I, my apologies. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me if I sound a little low this morning, but
Yeah.
you know,
You stop
I'm
visiting
sure.
those. Stop
Sorry,
visiting those districts. Those districts at your age.
I can't promise you that.
Oh,
Your
geez.
body can't keep up with that anymore.
That's what you feel. That's what ashwagandha for. I told you about ashwagandha. Have you been using it?
I haven't gotten any. Would you care to bring? And when you're coming, don't dare come back to this country without t-shirts like that for everybody.
Yeah, I already put my order in since last week. So
Don't
I've
dare.
already I've already left Jamaica. You know.
Well, you better go back and get.
mhm. Go
You
back
know,
and
I
but
can't believe you
serious.
would do that and not think of us. That's terrible.
I actually, why is Steve sounding so garbled?
Steve is fine. You're the one gobbled.
Am I coming across garbled?
no,
Not
it's
now.
not.
But you do have
Okay.
some internet wherever you are, probably in Miami or
Wherever you,
Florida.
where are you?
I am
Even
in Miami
Florida.
actually.
In
Yeah,
that hotel room, you could tell.
yeah. Because I have a flight. I have a flight right after this program.
That is
Actually,
his favorite place in the hotel rooms, guest house rooms.
yeah. But yeah. I am on. Let me take off this camera and see if it helps because I'm not hearing Steve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
You hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Right. I'm going to take off my camera just for a bit because I wasn't hearing Steve.
We're on these cheap hotels.
Yeah, boy.
Actually, it's a holiday in which is what I normally use. I normally use either holiday.
Budget internet don't work, boy. Take the package. I know you're trying to save money, but the budget internet don't work.
But when you're just doing it overnight, I mean, you have no choice.
Budget internet is for when you it's for sending emails. That's all. That's
It
what it's
might be
for.
it might be because I have attached another phone to it because I wanted to read from a post that I did. Because I've seen some comments concerning the Prime Minister's proposal. Well, not proposal because he says it's going to happen because of the votes in the Parliament.
But let's
So,
share it first, and then we will comment on it.
yeah, sure. Let's share.
Let's play that there, Paul. Play.
Mention one thing which is not so substantial in law, but substantial in how we see ourselves. You see them 3 Columbus boats in the emblem? They will go. And since we have enough votes in the parliament to do it, I could announce now that as soon as the legislative adjustment is made, and that that adjustment should be made before the 24th of September, we then, over a 6-month period, will replace Columbus' 3 ships, the Santa Maria, the Pinta, and the Nina, with the steel pan. And for logistical purposes, that will take place over a 6-month period, allowing us to consume the stationery and other things that we have in place and be replaced by our new intention. And that should signal that we are on our way to removing the colonial vestiges that we have in our Constitution. And I hope that we start with that and we end up getting up and no longer being squatters on the steps of the Privy Council.
So,
No, how could anyone seriously have a problem with that?
well, some people are saying, and this is the counter argument, and I'm not saying I disagree with it because I actually agree with it. That, well, okay, I understand that Columbus is certainly in post-colonial era been found to be wanting in terms of character in many ways. As many of the people who are celebrated in statues across Port of Spain, San Fernando, etc.
Yeah.
As many of the streets are named in Port of Spain, but some argue that those are facts about our colonial history. Facts. Yes, we don't have to celebrate them, and we could start replacing them in some people's estimation with nationals and indigenous peoples who have contributed to Trinidad and Tobago's development. But my question coming out of it, and again, I said, I fully support it. I have no problem with it. You understand?
Okay.
We start being reflective of who we are as a post-colonial country, in my opinion, right? That was then. We understood why it was then. But now we're forging our own civilization. We're going to leave Port of Spain, the Port of Spain too?
We're going to leave, sorry, what?
We're going to leave Port of Spain, the Port of Spain too?
Well, again, you know, at the end of the day, however, wherever this debate carries us, it's a carry us, you know, Paul.
Because you could go down that road, eh?
Yes, yes.
True. You could go down that road and say, well, let's start to wipe out all of that era, not only Spanish, English, French, everybody who may have done wrong things. There was the committee, the National or the Caribbean Committee on removing colonial vestiges also made a comment on the weekend indicating that the time had come to deal with some of those statues in Port of Spain. And names of the street, they mentioned Picton, who were atrocious in terms of the way they treated slaves. Families of slave owners who were slave owners who treated, even post-slavery, treated people of African and East Indian and descent and indigenous peoples horribly.
Yes.
You understand? And should not be celebrated in statues, etc. But the other side of that argument is it's part of our history. And two, where does it end? Is it that you're going to wipe out all? You're going to do half? Who decides which half? Who decides which one stays, which one goes? Because the Port of Spain is the Port of Spain.
Right. So let me give some examples, because this thing was always on the cards, especially when we pronounced the steel ban officially the other day, right? When it became official, right? This kind of debate came up, right? So let me tell you some of the places, because apparently people don't know, and maybe they need to do a little research sometimes, like we do. Sri Lanka. Let me give you an example of countries that change their name. Countries, not just an emblem, countries that change their name. Sri Lanka was formerly known as Ceylon. It changed its name after gaining independence from Britain in 1948 and leaving a dominion that recognized the crown as head of state. Thailand was formerly known as Siam. The country changed its name in 1939. Guess why? To assert its identity and unity in the face of Western colonial influence. The Democratic Republic of Congo was formerly known as Zaire. We grew up hearing about Zaire. We didn't hear about the Republic of Congo. Okay, Cambodia changed its name too. You know why? Because they officially became the Kingdom of Cambodia in 1993. These are just some examples of countries. Cities changed their name. Bombay is now Mumbai. All of these things happen worldwide, but we have people on social media arguing that it would be so expensive to change the emblem.
And even if it is, if the country agrees with it, the country bears the cost. That's it.
Yeah.
My question is not that, My question is, and as I said before, I agree with it, but where does it end?
Because
if you look all across Trinidad and Tobago, and Dr. Rowley is right. So we say we're independent and we change an emblem from the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Went straight back to primary school when he said that. Yes, the way he said it, you could tell he was in primary school. Like many of us around the same time. Because the time we had like a poem.
Nah, he was ahead.
Di Pinta di Santa Maria. I mean, right? And he's right. So, okay, we're so independent that every time we have a major legal issue, we run to the Privy Council and bother them.
Exactly.
So how independent are we when 3 lords with white wigs in England deciding our final legal positions on critical issues?
Yeah.
Because they decide, with all the independent, we independent. When we coming up in a legal conundrum and we can't agree past the Court of Appeal,
straight back there we go.
Straight back to the lords with the white wig to tell you what to do in Trinidad and Tobago. As independent as it is. No, that not right, this right. No, don't do that, do this.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
So how independent are we really? If we had to keep running back to them fellas, why them fellas but then we so what this independent 62 years now, they still can't decide whether they want to do legally and constitutionally? It doesn't make sense. It's inconsistent.
Yes, it is. I agree. Let me tell you something, all of them things need to go. This is why I would have been part of the council when Mayor Raymond Timke changed King George V Park to Mandela Park. I had no problem with it. I fully supported it then. You understand? And then one of the streets in Port of Spain was also name added onto it for a young soldier who served America in the war. That's the Mali Street. His name was added onto Mali Street. Laurent Wilson, I think. Yes.
Laurent Wilson.
Yes. Yeah. So that was added onto it. So I have no problem with it.
As a country evolves, people can't expect things to stay the same. But as I said before, my concern is not concern, but my question is, at what point because you could go through 1 million streets in Port of Spain still. The names of 1 million places. Thank God places like Manzanilla and Arepa and Arima are named after indigenous names. You understand? So because Columbus didn't discover Trinidad and Tobago, as they used to tell me in primary school. It had people before Columbus reached here. Right?
Yeah.
The English and the French and the Spanish, right? They own history. Because that is them version of it, and put it in books for us to learn and recite in primary school. Well,
yeah.
Right? Because it had Columbus and no discover Trinidad and Tobago. Columbus brought to the attention of Europe Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago was here with indigenous people before that.
Yes.
And they didn't treat them too good either.
I just came from a country that's so proud of the people and what they stand for. Everywhere you go in Jamaica, it's about Jamaica, you know. It's about Jamaicans, you know. Everywhere you go, you know. It's about Jamaicans, you know, and the heroes, you know. And whatever history they have, you know. All the people who represented them, you know. From the top to the bottom, you know. They don't make joke with that, you know.
So I think we're on the right track. I think people say, well, they wipe out the history. As you learn, you change. You can't change, say learning and not changing. Okay? The example, how you know people have learned is when they change. And you want to change them is not a big deal. What? Generations to come will the history is recorded and the evolution of the history recorded and the version of the history that is accurate will change.
Yeah.
So
a little bit again.
I thought it was a productive announcement. Is it this discussion about God, we have to change our lending? So what? We change the whole beautiful.
Exactly. You know, I
remember BWIA?
Again,
they didn't change stationery then.
Yeah, some people will just argue everything just because Dr. Rowley.
And people have the right to have their opinion. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but you know, I as I had to say on Gavin Nicholas's page yesterday, you can't just oppose for opposing sake, because that's what we come down to now. We just opposing for opposing sake.
People could have different opinions without just saying it's opposing for opposing sake. People could just legitimately have differences of opinion.
No, but his argument, Paul, was the argument you just debunked. How expensive it will be to change all these emblems and so on. That was the argument, you know.
I had to restrain myself from saying something.
That was his argument.
There are other ways that are less productive that have cost the country billions of dollars.
You're telling me?
So let me leave it like that. The committee for constitutional reform made some recommendations. And it's interesting that the report from the committee led by Senior Counsel Barendra Sinanan made this report to the Prime Minister. It's on the Prime Minister's website, which spoke to, among many recommendations, fixed dates for elections, proportional representation, and the people electing a president as head of state, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite interesting that juxtaposed against that was the PNM's position on some of these issues, also announced yesterday at the PNM Special Convention. And what is a special convention, man? Because I don't understand what it is as opposed to a different convention.
Well, it's not in the vein of its annual convention. They would have held a special convention specifically to discuss that issue. It's just a structure in the PNM that they come together.
I want this for clarity. So the PNM, through Keith Scotland SC, who seemingly headed a PNM Internal Constitutional Review Committee, have made their own pronouncements on some of the recommendations in the committee led by Barry Sinanan SC, as appointed by the Prime Minister. And the PNM came out and immediately said, no to fixed election dates, no to proportional representation, which is quite interesting in terms of a juxtaposition, because the country ain't even absorb and digest the recommendations yet in a wider discussion. But there it is, this information comes out, which in some people's estimation, done till we already, none of that happening.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No.
But all the hullabaloo about this constitutional reform. So because if the PNM's position is that, and many of those issues will need a 3/5 majority in Parliament if they have to change.
Yes.
It basically means, by inference, as much as all this committee went out and gathered this information, and this is what the people say, because the committee gathered people's impression, the population. Am I wrong?
No.
Right. So we went through this exercise, appoint a committee headed by legal luminaries, including Dr. Terence Farrell, Jackie Sanson Miguel, everybody, right? Went around the country and get these opinions about how the country thinks. And the PNM convention makes an announcement yesterday, say, no, we're not on that. We're not on those things. I just said they didn't say all, but
Yeah.
So then what was the point of the exercise?
Yeah, I didn't follow all the recommendations and so on. I haven't been reading it up.
But the ones I advised, which is the ones being reported at this time, because there's a lot of recommendations. But those are significant recommendations.
Right.
So people apparently, according to the committee, say they want fixed dates for elections, say they want proportional representation in general elections since they are ready for local government.
Yes.
They want the head of state, who is the president, elected, appointed by an election of the people. And according to them, particularly the two with fixed election dates and proportional representation, the PNM has said that's not their position. So
yeah, they've always,
if it's not their position, and it's the what the people say.
Why the wider country?
What was the point of the exercise?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've been honest in terms of what they say.
I have a problem with that, but at the end of the day, what is the point of the exercise?
Yeah. Well, the wider country will have its say at some point in time. I don't know when, because the wider country, we had 3 governments during the period who had that authority to move this place forward in terms of constitutional reform, and none did. You understand? The PNM, when they won all the seats in the no vote election of, what is that, 71 or something, so 71 or 76. The NAR had it in 1986 when they won 33, and the People's Partnership had it at 2912. You understand? And none of them did it.
So again,
here we are.
My question is, according to the committee, this is what the people who they interfaced with said. So they documented and they presented it to the Prime Minister. and this is what seemingly the vast majority, because everyone won't agree, would not have agreed, coming out of these consultations, these public consultations held over some months.
Right.
And
they didn't give the percentages.
But probably not. And but we have to take the committee as an honest, noble committee, right? They're not going to invent, as far as I think.
Right.
And the government of the day says we don't share that position, right? And if the government of the day doesn't share that position, even if it's taken to Parliament, what will happen?
Well, we know where the opposition.
It will be voted down.
Yeah. Yes.
So my simple question is, what was the point of the exercise?
Well, again, in terms of the structure of the PNM, these are necessities. You understand? Because remember, the structure of the party starts at the party group level, starts at the community level with the party.
And I have no problem with that, Wendell. So my point is, what is going to change after the exercise?
Well, if you had to well, I think we would have said this before. The mere fact that you need a 3/5 majority, it's not going to happen. We know that.
All right.
They know that. But
there's something else I want to share that I want the video. Right? And that's simply my question. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm saying the exercise was to see what people thought on major constitutional issues, right? The party has a different opinion, which they have the right to have. Party will sit down and have their own position, as will the UNC, as with any other party, on critical issues.
Yeah.
And if the government of the day, whoever that may be, says we disagree or agree, that will determine where we go. So I saw this video online over the weekend about this very expensive vehicle apparently being brought into the country. I don't know if it's true.
I saw it too.
I don't know if it's true. But if it's true, it raises some significant questions in the context of Forex in this country. And when you go into the bank, if you have children in university, you're getting $300 a week or a month, whatever it is. If you have small and micro business, you can't get Forex if you're lucky. You understand? So this is the video. And I'll say, if someone can tell me it's not true, I will stand by that. I have no problem. But the inference is that someone was able to get a huge amount of Forex, right, to import this.
May God have mercy upon my enemies, because I won't.
I built this shit.
I'm going to take the volume. Right? So apparently this is a Rolls-Royce Spectre costing you between US $500,000 and $600,000.
US.
It's US. Beautiful vehicle.
Yes, it is.
Oh, it's an amazing vehicle.
A Rolls-Royce SUV passed me on the highway yesterday.
So, what do you all think about our scarce Forex being used for this? If it is indeed true, because it's coming off around, but I don't know if it's in Port of Spain, the port or whatever, we don't know.
Yeah. I saw the video, but it wasn't identified exactly where, but it was said it was being imported into Trinidad and Tobago.
I know.
But that's not unusual. I don't think that's unusual. We've had Rolls Royces here before.
Very good point. He said these businessmen may have monies outside of TNT that they make outside the country.
Yeah.
So it could be somebody money that they're making. It could be a multinational company. True. Good point.
Yeah.
But that was the discussion online over the weekend, you know.
I didn't see a discussion on it because I'm happy for the person.
That's where the video came from. There was a lot of discussion on it.
Oh, okay.
The video came because people said, I can't get $300 in the bank, but Finbar is right. That's the perspective I didn't think of, that people make their money independently, all house, so they could do what they want with their money.
Oh, I'm not getting Steve properly at all. I don't know why. Are you, Steve? Are you getting me properly?
It is on your end, Wendell.
It's on your end.
Steve is right. It's on your end.
Okay. All right.
You're the one who is in your usual place, right? Yeah, Michael Grandison is saying it will end where it needs to end, talking about what needs to change.
Yeah, I agree. Let it go the full distance.
Shall we open the phone? You know, that's your question this morning. If you agree with moving the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria from the coat of arms.
Yeah. Those 3 ships, as Dr. Oli said, had to go. I like how he put it over.
He didn't say it had to go. He said going.
Going.
He didn't say it had to go. In other words, they're going.
They're going.
It wasn't a question. He wasn't ambivalent about it. They're going.
Yes. By the way, today let me wish.
Had to go suggest another question mark. They have no question mark. They're going. By the 24th of September, they're going.
Yes. Before you take the first call, Paul, let's wish Lisa Morris Julian happy birthday.
Good morning, Minister. Happy birthday.
Yeah, she's the Member of Parliament for Derby O'Meara and Minister in the Education Ministry. Happy birthday, Lisa. Yesterday was Wayne Ramsey's birthday and Daniel DeFantala too. So happy belated birthday greetings, Wayne. I know you're listening. You know, and also 2 days ago was David Mohammed's birthday. And of course, the late Patrick Manning.
Happy birthday, David. Belated birthday.
David was Saturday. What today? Monday? Saturday. Yes. He's actually in Jamaica. He was here. He wanted to know where I was. I gave him a location, but I didn't see him show up yet.
Okay. Let's grab this call. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. When you all started
so we're taking calls, right? Let me see what Gavin Nicholas is saying about my post.
Harris Promenade, Johnson.
I wonder if my PNM friends...
Wendell
you're talking over the caller.
Oh, sorry. Our caller's online. Sorry.
I didn't hear anything that Ms. San Fernando said. Sorry, Ms. San Fernando. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, I want to start by saying local government reform is a hoax. But I agree with the initiative to try and regain some of our identity and not be brainwashed. I wonder if this, I often think, Paul, if they're still teaching in primary school that Columbus discovered Trinidad. I wonder if that is still...
I hope not.
I often think about that. What are the social studies teachers teaching children now? You know? So I will leave it there. I have a good week. I look forward to hearing more from your program this week.
All right. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Wendell, Mr. Steve, and Mr. Richard.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going?
Good morning. Fine, thank you.
Yeah. Just yesterday during the conference, I heard Mr. Rowley said that some of the people made the recommendation that not to go through with the Privy Council, right? And also this fixed date for election. So so the conference of itself, the different committees went through that, you know. So if you could check before, right? That's all I have to say right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Captain.
Yes, I'm over in Oregon. I had to. Luckily, my sleeping habit hasn't been adjusted to the West Coast yet.
Don't know how you all do that.
Listen, first of all, Wendell, I love your T-shirt you're wearing there at Bob Marley. You got to tell me where you got it from. Listen, what the Prime Minister has talked about, I am telling you something that is long overdue, and I have been praying for something like that to happen. And to the people who saying it's a hoax, who think it's something is wrong with that, it's time you grow up and decolonize all your mind. That's the problem. Richard, you had it. Paul, you had it correctly. We need to stop this and wake up and decolonize our mind. In Germany, don't take my word, go check it out. They have changed the very anthem from the way Hitler had it to what it is now. that comedians are making jokes about it. So it's time we decolonize our minds and wake up. It's a very good thing. I have to really agree. It's been long overdue. Gentlemen, have a good week, and it's strange wherever I go. This will I still have to listen to you guys. I don't know what you guys are doing to my mind. I'm good one.
All right, Captain Ron. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning. So I was looking at this video. It was a teacher in America was stating that she's a history teacher, and what she does, in the class, she gets the next teacher to come unknown to the students, and they have a simulated fight. So after the scuffle, she would tell the students, and the other teacher goes back to their other class. She will tell the students, well, because what happened, you all need to write a report so we can submit it to the office. So the following day, they would come together and they would view the reports, let everybody read the reports. And as we all know, everybody would have a different report. It would not be whatever the quantity is, it would not be the same. So then the two teachers explained to them that this was all made up. And you all are writing a report based on which teacher you favor, which one you like. Thus, history is. So the students get a first-hand seeing why history is like that. So I think, as you, Paul, asked if they're still teaching, I hope they're still not teaching Christopher Columbus discovered Trinidad. But that would be a nice thing to show the children what history is really like. It's written by the victors.
Well, not only that, sir. If according to my history lessons, Columbus wasn't the most honest, noble person in the world. Eh? To start before he leaves Spain. Okay? Yeah. That's why they let him go on this crazy trip to find the East Indies, and he bunks up in the West Indies.
The English perfected slavery on the Irish.
So, Columbus was never the most noble person in the world. So Columbus' version was never going to be an accurate version.
We have a disagreement.
You understand?
The man went in search of India, you know.
That's why I say you went to look for the East Indies and you end up in the West Indies, you get lost.
Yeah.
So he could be a poster child for GPS.
He could be a poster child for lies.
Well, so too are the English, huh?
Yeah. David Wes, who I usually agree with, I have to disagree with you this morning, David. David is saying crime is more important than coat of arms. David, we can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Exactly.
We can deal with more than one issue at the same time.
But I don't follow the argument, though, that crime is more important. I don't follow the argument.
Crime is important, but that doesn't mean we can't have a discussion about what we're discussing at the same time.
Yeah, because the coat of arms have very little to do with anything criminal.
No, but I don't think he was inferring that. He was talking about that should be the point of our focus. Well, no, not necessarily. We could talk about all at the same time. And we talk about crime generally.
Yeah, morning.
It's not a crime going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm tired of the argument sometimes, and I just don't know what to say or how to deal with it. I'm just tired.
Why are you tired? You have the right to voice their opinion. Why you get tired?
No.
Agree or not?
No.
All right, we have a caller.
No, it's interesting. The Wendell debates, I guess, is debates in nationalism and identity, and that's fair enough. But I think how far it should go is that we really need to teach our history properly, and not necessarily the political origin story, but there's the stories of identity and the stories of the people. You know, there's people who didn't even know. They did when they were doing the March to Carney theater production and thing, and the children, university children, students asked, why they didn't even know about the March to Carney. And they say, why didn't anybody tell us this story? And then another young student study and said there were no slave revolts in Trinidad and Tobago during the slave period. When you hear people making these statements and then people don't, we haven't taught our people our history, and it's very absent. Yes, people understand Columbus, they understand certain structural issues of our past, but they really don't understand the historical context. And that is just sad. That is just sad. And I think, to be fair to the state has been doing the memorialization process of asking people for submissions on how memorials should be done and statues and things like plaques and signage plaques, but street names, plaques, memorials, and statues. They're asking for submissions and things to rectify the absence of people. Even know one person came, very famous academic, looking for CLR grave, went and he was just saddened. He said the house is demolished, the VS Naipaul, the house, his burial ground was overgrown. He said, your people don't treat your heroes properly. And he just admonished, I think he did that. So we haven't done very well to our indigenous past, far less for the indigenous people story. And then, so I think that's how far we have to go.
All righty. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Mm-hmm.
When you all start on statue, could you all move Gandhi from San Fernando, Promenade, Harris, Promenade, San Fernando, please?
Let me tell you where this argument going, guys. Let me tell you where this argument going, This argument going where people will be making a say for the TASA also to watch,
Good morning. Oops, it is.
Shall we go to the newspapers?
Yeah, let me do that.
It is Monday, the 19th of August, 2024. Let's start with the Trinidad and Tobago, or the Daily Express it is actually. A sad farewell is the front page. 8-year-old Nilisha Sophia Narayana was a child. And family lost her, apparently. She apparently passed from dengue, if I'm not mistaken, by some of the article. 4 more shot dead. Of course, the murder carnage continues with 3 in Grandy alone. The total now stands at 400. No PNM support for fixed election date. A picture of the special convention held yesterday at Napa. PM disappointed in UNC. Did not participate in the National Constitution and Constitutional Reform. MP wants audit of Coast Guard assets. That's opposition MP Dr. Rudal Moinlal. He's claiming that 90% of its vessels were non-operational. Rowley steel pan to replace Columbus's ship on coat of arms. Murders in Grandy, Valencia, and Mova. Let's move now to the Guardian. Columbus ships out. PM reveals move to replace steel pan on coat of arms. PNM laments no support from UNC on constitutional reform. Man critical after motorist drives car into him. Opposition, constitutional reform and election gimmick. Smooth road ahead, sinkhole along highway repaired. And classmates shed tears as dengue victim 8 is laid to rest. Sad, really sad news. And now on to the news day. Ramping up for viruses. Of course, Mpox is moving around the world. No cases yet in Trinidad and Tobago, fortunately. Steve, can you get Dr. Ora on sometime in the week?
Yeah.
Professor Ora, sorry. Birth of criminality and opinion piece. Solving the crime problem and opinion piece also. Time for local content law on radio stations. Marshall Montana to receive keys to New York City. Monilal on scrapped housing project. What does the HDC have to hide? And I mean, Forex shortage driving up food prices. So those are trending stories. Before we move on to the
how dare New York give Marshall Montana the key to their city? How dare?
Let me.
I wonder how many people in New York arguing against that this morning. Trinidadian sickening sometimes, yes. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
I thought you get some in Jamaica where they be discuss.
I got a lot.
You got a lot?
Plenty. Too much.
All right, good. You're traveling to get it now. Congratulations to the Ministry of Agriculture for the Agri Expo held over the weekend, which was extremely well attended and very well organized.
I saw some
pictures. I wanted to go in.
It was a very, very, very good initiative. I've seen Agri Expos before, but this one was really well done. So congratulations. Is Kazim Hussein the Minister of Agriculture?
Yes.
And Avinash Singh is also a Minister in the Ministry of Agriculture, right? So congratulations to them both and their teams for that. There are a lot of agri-processors and producers and manufacturers also on display. And it was, you couldn't drive around this around over the weekend without encountering traffic. Right? Okay. So I didn't want to let that pass because people would like to talk about good news. So I think it's pretty good news.
All right. So because I'm not hearing Steve or the callers, I'm actually listening to the program on my radio where I'm hearing it. So I'll do the scoring of the poll, right?
Okay.
It'll be delayed, right?
So what's our poll this morning, Paul?
Well, let's get the results of our morning poll from Friday, where we asked you, should parents take legal responsibility for the crimes of their minor children?
Is Steve speaking?
That I don't know why you're not hearing.
Just keep going now, Steve.
Yeah. That was our poll on Friday. The results are in. 84%. 84% said yes.
And since Wendell has won out his polls over the weekend, we'll use my poll this morning.
Oh, jeez. Such an old poll.
Just read the thing now, Steve.
Yes, I'm putting up the thing to take a picture to send it for the guys so they can put it up. Do you agree with the removal of the Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria from the Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace them with the steel pan? Yes or no? 222-8255, toll free. North Americans, 866-525-1099 on WhatsApp at 3181021. Do you agree with the removal of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria from the Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace them with the steel pan?
Avinash Singh is a parliamentary secretary. That's right. Thanks for the correction, Finbar.
All right.
And the board this morning, boy. Jeez.
That's our votes. Let's see. Finbar Collins, totally agree. Gloria Gray says yes. Maybe I should write, since Wendell is having a hard time. Did I say that? Let's see. Yes and no. Here we go. I did. Finbar Collins says yes. Gloria Gray says yes. Mrs. R says yes. CJ New York says yes. Boy Bedisi says yes. Gregory Bauer says yes. Rena Boodoo Jennings, yes. Jean Clark, yes. DL Big, yes. Adonna Clark says hell yes. Hanif Daniel says yes. Beauty Culture says yes. Lester Craigwell says yes. Carol Guevara says yes. Let's see what's up here. On WhatsApp, please put your name next to it so I could say. So I got one yes on WhatsApp. Garvin in New York says yes. Caitlin Kahatan, how do you pronounce that? Kahatan says yes. Captain Ron says yes. Anthony from Toronto says yes. I got another yes. I got another yes. Okay, let's go back to our stream. Move my headphone cable. Whoa. Okay, so did Carol Guevara. Richard P. Knight says yes. Julie Espetis, yes. Michael Robinson, yes. Wayne Joseph says yes. Pearl Corder says yes. Wayne Ramsey says yes. Schumer Paul says yes. Trini Get Fit says yes. Slick Money Group says yes. Morning Ambrose. Beefy Smith in Goodwood, Tobago says yes. Gerald Pollinaire says yes. Vaughn Drayton says yes. Let's see. Roger in Florida said absolutely. Alistair Hart says yes. Vincent in Birmingham, England says yes. I did Garvin already. Somebody else has a resounding yes.
It's Freeze. Wendell Freeze there. Wendell.
I'm
Wendell,
not.
you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you, Paul.
Based on these words like this, the convention.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I'm wondering, everybody in sync this morning. I'm so proud of our listeners.
Ambrose Blas says yes. Faria Hayatali says yes. Vianney Warwood says no. Rasta says yes.
Vianney say no? What?
We got to know. Good morning, GNC Auto Security. Dan Raj, good morning. David Nelson, good morning. All right. Again, our poll. Do you agree with the removal of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria from the coat of arms and replace them with the steel pan? Yes or no? Kenny out in Harlem says yes. Hill Benji says yes. Hill Ben, sorry. I did Rasta, right. Okay. All right. Ian Lee out in West Trinidad. Morning, Ian. Says yes. Antonio Butts.
I wonder what big guy would vote. Big guy sending a vote in.
All right, we have some calls coming through. Good morning. Oops, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Branston City. My answer is yes, and I want to wish my daughter Jennifer out in Port City happy birthday, and also my cousin Lisa Morris.
Okay. Yep, it's a birthday. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I would like to know who say no.
Vianney Warwood. Let's see. Antonia Butts. Well, I think I got your vote already. Mrs. R. Maria Celia says yes. All right. Do you agree with the removal of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria from the Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace them with the steel pan? That's our poll. You have a couple of minutes. Of course, our poll will stay up on our mobile app, which you should have by now, and our website at power102fm.com. Michael Gradison says yes. Says we asking answers.
I think today is the American Democratic Party.
It is.
The convention.
Out in Chicago.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
That woman doesn't have Donald Trump imploding already.
Yeah. You see what they're coming up with now, that she has a drinking problem.
Well, he's trying all kind of thing, but he's just able to deal with her.
Oliver Man Warren says yes.
I don't have to tell you the comments.
I don't have to
tell you the comments on social media. With that, with her, with the name on the drinking problem, right? People
from New York says voting for Zena this morning. Yes. All right, you're voting for Zena. I tell you, I got a yep. Yep. I have Roger Swing says no. Anne Marie saying yes. Thank you guys for your vote on WhatsApp at 3181021.
Paul, your poll get real votes this morning.
I'm not saying no.
Right. Somebody else said no there?
My poll usually receives a lot of attention, Wendell.
Well, I've seen that.
I ain't seen no word.
I've seen that.
It's built for that attention. So it's constructed stuff.
Behave yourself. Behave for yourself.
It's like veins are seen running through your pole there, man.
You have to share this morning, girl.
Oh, Lord.
Steve, you got 2 no's?
Yeah, so far.
Paul might have to repeat what Steve said. I'm gonna log off and log back on when we go on the 7 o'clock
When
news.
we go in news, I was just going to tell you should do that.
And our guest after 7 is Steve?
Mr. Hines. Oops, I didn't send the invite.
Who, Hines? Who?
Mr. Fitzgerald Hines.
Mr.? You want to correct that?
MP, sorry.
Honorable Minister of National Security.
Yeah.
Good morning, Avril.
Good morning.
All
How are
right.
you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am, and your good self. You're good?
Yeah, I am. It's wonderful to hear from you.
I say the
John
feeling is mutual.
Who says yes?
He disrespectful, huh?
I said the feeling is mutual. How is that disrespectful?
No, him, Steve. He's just talking over us.
But that's normal. That's not surprising to Steve. So why is surprised? Nothing out of the ordinary.
No.
That's why I didn't pay it no mind, because it's like classic Steve. So why?
We are doing a poll. If you all want to have a convo, pick up your cell phone. That's all I'll say.
Wow.
Okay, so let's get into our 7 o'clock news. Miserable is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley revealed steel pan to replace Columbus ships on coats of arms. Cal flight experiences technical issue and lands safely in Piaco. The country's murder toll rises to 390 with 4 more homicides over the weekend. Grenadian athlete Karani James awarded the Commander of the Order of the British Empire in Queen's New Year Honours List. Details in a moment.
Steve, please shift camera.
This is news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. I'm Avril Sintel-Bab. Good morning. There are plans to remove the 3 ships of Christopher Columbus from Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace them with the national instrument, the steel pan. The change is expected to be finalized before Republic Day, September 24th. There will also be a 6-month transition period to facilitate changes to stationery and other official materials. This move was revealed by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley while addressing the People's National Movement's special convention on Sunday evening.
It is not a society where if you defend yourself with your licensed firearm and protect your family, that you are likely to go and find yourself before the court for having defended yourself. So what is this issue in a local government election that half of the campaign of other people is about stand your ground? Right now as I speak to you, there are 14 states in America that are trying to get rid of that law. Because in a plural society, what it has done, it has created division, and the use of that carte blanche force of one against the other has had very, very bad outcomes.
On another issue, Prime Minister Dr. Rowley defended and thanked members of the National Advisory Committee on Constitutional Reform. On August 2nd, the 7-member committee headed by Barendra Sinan and SC presented its report titled We the People to Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. The report was released on the Office of the Prime Minister's website on Wednesday. Some of the recommendations included changing the way elections are conducted, proportional representation, and an independent process for the appointment of a president. The Prime Minister read out details of the terms of reference and how it went about doing its work.
We believe that we might be able to get that done. The Cabinet has extended the life of the committee until December. And we are hoping that we can have that national forum
after this period of public education, which the Ministry of Government Communication and the committee can engage in, and look at maybe the first week in November to have that national forum.
Caribbean Airlines says a flight that experienced a technical issue on Sunday landed safely at Piarco International Airport. CAL said the aircraft has been temporarily withdrawn from service for inspection following the incident. According to the airline, flight BW1509 operating between Tobago and Trinidad on Sunday, August 18th, experienced a technical issue en route to Trinidad, specifically a warning light that came on in the cockpit. The pilots initiated the relevant operating procedure, and the aircraft landed safely and taxied to a gated position at the Piarco International Airport, where all passengers and crew disembarked. It added, in keeping with the regulations, the aircraft has been temporarily withdrawn from service and all appropriate inspections and procedures are in progress. Once these are cleared, the aircraft will be released. Extremely unfortunate is how the Water and Sewage Authority has described a planned protest by some members of Upper Kunapo Road, Sangre Grande, due to issues with their water supply. WASA claims it is now apparent attempts are being made to agitate communities to engage in protest action, bypassing dialogue and civility in the process. The utility notes further information coming to the authority suggests some media elements are being drawn into this fray and is hoping the Fourth Estate, the media, will remain above such ignoble activities. It explains not only has this community received a pipe-borne supply on August 16th, but also received another supply on August 17th to 18th. WASA says the next supply to that community will be on the evening of Wednesday 21st, overnight to Thursday 22nd August, as per established schedule. The Ministry of Education will admit migrant children into schools in September 2024 in compliance with the Immigration Amendment No. 2 Regulations 2024. Guidelines for the admission of migrant children of Venezuela into schools in Trinidad and Tobago were developed in collaboration with the Ministry of National Security and will apply to Venezuelan nationals under the age of 18 whose parents or legal guardians registered in 2019 and continue to register yearly under the Migrant Registration Framework. The Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Ministry of National Security, will present letters of admission to the successful students at a ceremony on Monday, 19th August at 11 a.m. This ceremony will be held at the Ministry of Education Conference Room 2, Level 4. 4 more homicides have been added to the country's murder toll for the year over the weekend. The murder toll is currently at 390 compared to 366 for the same period last year. The deceased have been listed as Kevin Shrek Lucas, Shireen Salandi, David Best, and Jamil James. Lucas and Salandi were fatally shot at about 3 a.m. on Sunday on the Budo Highway in Sangre Grande. Police reports indicate the two were liming on the roadway when residents of the area heard gunshots. Upon investigating, they found both victims lying on the roadway in pools of blood. Police and paramedics were notified, however, they both died shortly after. About 2 hours earlier, David Best, a 46-year-old private hired driver, was fatally shot on Kangali Street in Valencia. 2 other people, a 41-year-old man from Curab and a 30-year-old woman from San Juan, were also injured in the incident. According to reports, around 12:05 a.m. yesterday, a group of people were said to be attending the wake of a woman who died recently on Kangali Street when 2 men dressed in what appeared to be police and TNT regiment uniforms were observed standing on the roadway. Both men were masked and holding firearms. The suspects opened fire on the group without warning, hitting the 3 individuals. Best was fatally shot in the face and chest. The 41-year-old man was shot on his right shoulder, while the 30-year-old woman was shot in her left leg. The suspects then ran behind a nearby property and onto a track that leads to the Valencia Bypass Road. Police currently have no motive for the shooting. In the third incident, 35-year-old Jamil James of Chandy Lane in San Juan was fatally shot at about 6:30 p.m. on Saturday in Mova. Police were told that residents of Westmore Road in 2nd Caledonia heard gunshots and upon investigating observed a Hyundai Tucson parked nearby. It appeared to have been shot up and both left passenger doors were open. No one was in the vehicle at the time. Police were notified and officers found James' bullet-riddled body hidden in some bushes near the road. He had been shot in the head and chest. 6 spent 9mm shells as well as 2 live rounds of 9mm ammunition were found at the scene, according to police. You are listening to news on Power 102 Digital to 7 o'clock. Further afield, Karani James has been appointed the Order of the British Empire Civil Division in this year's Queen's New Year's Honours list. James was recognized for his outstanding contribution to sport over the last decade, during which he became the only man in Olympic history to win gold, silver, and bronze in the 400 meters. The Queen's New Year's Honours list was released on January 1st, 2022, and recognizes people in the Commonwealth for exemplary service and achievements in various disciplines.
Karani is a rare specimen that should be treasured forever, and any accolades bestowed upon him is absolutely well-deserved. Karani, we present to you the Commander of the Order of the British Empire Medal.
Straight into weather news for the period today until midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, mainly hot and sunny despite 1 or 2 light showers. There's a low chance of the odd moderate shower over the windwards. Nighttime fair to partly cloudy with brief isolated showers. Look out for a maximum temperature of 34 degrees Celsius at Piarco International Airport and 32 degrees Celsius at Crown Point in Tobago. Currently it is 26 degrees Celsius at Piarco and 28 degrees Celsius at Crown Point. Recapping your headlines at 7 o'clock, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley reveals steel pan to replace Columbus ships on coat of arms. Cal flight experiences technical issue but lands safely in Piarco. The country's murder toll rises to 390 with 4 more homicides over the weekend. And Grenadian athlete Karani James is awarded the Commander of the Order of the British Empire in Queen's New Year Honours list. I'm Avril Sintil-Bab. That was news to 7 o'clock on Power 102 Digital. Look out for more news in detail at 12 noon today and an update at 8 o'clock this morning. For more details, log on to power102fm.com.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All right. Thank you so much, Avi, for our major news. You can join her again. Come 8 o'clock this morning for our news brief. All right. Quickly, let's see what's happening on the highways and on the byways at this time. If there's any issues, even south towards Claxton Bay, you've got some traffic. Hoover to Chaguanas, usual spots, Santa Rosa, Trinity City, and after Uwe, it's smooth sailing into Port of Spain. You gotta love that. All right, let's see if we have any more votes here. Let me just grab my trusty pen. Cheryl Henry says yes. Let's see. WhatsApp. I have Val saying yes. All right. So we had 59 votes this morning on our morning poll, which was, do you agree with the removal of the Nina, Pinta, and Santa Maria from the Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace them with the steel pan? All right. Out of the 59 votes we got this morning, 2 said no, 57 said yes, they agree with it. All right. Of course, we'll stay up on our mobile app and on our website until tomorrow morning when I'll give you the final results. All right. Right. Okay, Wendell, you're back in. You're hearing me properly now?
I fully agree. So
I actually got that same total, Steve, because I was keeping score by listening to the program on the radio.
Oh, really?
So yes, okay. I actually got that score.
Wonderful.
But I'm still hearing you garbled, unfortunately. So I don't know how I'm going to make out of this interview.
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't seen him. Let me just give him a call right time.
I think Professor Bridget Berreton, if I'm not mistaken, was against these sorts of renamings of streets and removal of statues, etc. I don't know that A country has to evolve.
Professor Bridget Burton is against it.
I think so. I think I read something like that against not particularly this, but the issue of removal of names and changing of names and removal of statues, etc. But she's an historian, so historians have a particular stance.
All right.
History, but history is not static in many cases.
We must interview Gavin Nicholas one of these days. He has an opinion on a lot of things lately. And I think I know why. But that's all right. Everyone deserves ambition. So we must invite him into the show one of these days.
I'll do that.
We would have spoken to him back in the day. Because he held 3 major positions, press secretary, ambassador to London, and attorney general. He was big,
Yeah. I didn't get under my guest as yet. I don't know if he's logging on or not.
Paul, because I'm having difficulty hearing Steve, and I'll probably have difficulty hearing the guests. I might have to defer most of the interview to you, right?
Okay. But you hear him, Paul, fine, right? He's no. He's not
You need to upgrade the internet package. That is all. He keeps staying in these cheap hotels with this
motel.
Internet.
Downgrade it to a motel.
It drives in all over the world. You're paying more money and by the people in them when they bring in the services to you. But if you establish the internet.
Well, this particular hotel doesn't offer a package. It just gives you a code and you. So I'm hearing you good. I'm seeing you good. I'm streaming the show on the radio very good. I'm hearing you properly, but I'm just not hearing you live properly. Steve,
you do have Double Palm branches up there that you could avail yourself.
Oh boy.
You do usually have problems from Double Palm.
Well, this is an older holiday, so I don't know. Maybe they, I don't know. And I'm hearing all kind of noises from the rooms and around. So I don't know. I don't know.
All kinds of noises.
Yeah, because
nice hotel
because it's dated, it's not soundproof the way they do rooms now. And I need a soundproof room, trust me.
Why do you need a soundproof room, Wendell?
As I guess I throw down things and all that. I throw down things and things.
You throw down things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, throwing down some coffee now.
You may leave that alone. Shall we open the phone lines while Steve waits for his guest to arrive? Again. I saw there was also quite a hoopla on Friday last week and Saturday over this, what should I call it? Travel blogger. Travel with Zoe, is that her name?
Oh, I don't know that. I didn't follow that one.
Yes, she apparently did some video with someone. She's been in TNT for a while and going to different places and enjoying the culture of Trinidad and Tobago and blogging about it. So she did this video apparently with 1 or 2 artists where she was quite risque in terms of her attire and her interaction with the video artists. So she came in for quite some condemnation on social media, people saying that she's an influencer and she should know better, and she is a role model, etc., which I found quite interesting that they are ascribing onto this young woman all these responsibilities.
Heroism.
With all these responsibilities for a particular behavioral code, which I'm saying, but why are you all thinking that the woman has to listen to you all or do anything you all want? She's adult. She's free, she's over 18, and she chose to engage in those videos. So I don't know that she's responsible to Trinidad and Tobago or any country. I think she's from the UK.
Mm-hmm.
People got so upset and giving her advice and all of that. I'm saying that
the moral police on social media.
There's only one reason that she came to rise to prominence in Trinidad and Tobago in the first place.
Who's this you're talking about?
The moral police, they're all over social media.
With Zoe.
I didn't hear that.
And they were all up in arms over how could she do this and it's so degrading and da. I'm saying, but why don't you just scroll past? You just flick of a thumb. You don't want to see it, you go past. I don't know. People really have nothing to do. Clearly, the numbers are
222-8255, 222-TALK.
Lyndon.
And 526.
Hold on. Yeah. I'll call.
8-something, 526.
I'll call Mr. Hines in 1 minute.
Steve,
time.
give the foreign number.
Why do you keep calling him Mr. Hines? He's Minister Hines.
Minister Hines. Lyndon Leslie, I don't know, Paul, if you read this message. I find you very degrading to our listeners. And you should not be calling people names.
Who I call names?
I'm not going to read your message.
But who I call names?
And one messenger was very disturbed by your message.
What message was that?
When you go up, you'll see Lyndon Leslie. I'll call Mr. MP Hines now.
And you chose to share this with me, Steve. Why? I don't understand what Steve commentary was about. And I don't know who I call names this morning.
No, not you.
Who was calling somebody names?
Read the chat.
The moral police out. It had a blogger used to call himself Radio Police. You know?
All right. Honorable Minister, good morning.
A very good morning to you, Mr. Khan, and to your colleagues at the table, and of course your viewers and listeners. Thank you very much.
We do have Paul and Wendell with us this
morning. Good morning, Minister Hines. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you very much, and I trust you all are okay as well. Thank you.
We are well and giving thanks. Would you care to answer our question this morning?
And our question this morning, Minister.
Morning, Minister Hines. Unfortunately, I'm unable to hear.
Let's put the poll up for me one more time.
Yeah. I'm unable to participate in the interview because I'm having internet problems where I am. So my apologies.
So our poll question this morning, Minister, was: do you agree with the removal of the Nina, Pinta, Santa Maria from the Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace it with the steel pan?
Yes, and what was the result of your poll?
We want to get your vote first.
Get your vote, I'll give it the results.
Then we'll tell you what the results is.
I absolutely, for 1,001 reasons, agree.
All right. So we had 59 votes this morning on our poll, and 57 people said yes, and of course 2 said no.
Yeah, so this makes it, my own makes it 58.
No, yours would make it 58, yes. 58 saying yes.
Yes. Well, I'm happy to be on the side of the very illuminating majority.
Thank you for joining us this morning. Of course, our question to you was quite academic. We kind of proffered a guess as to where your vote would land. I actually agree with it also. I've said so this morning earlier on. I think it's part of the evolution of any country to look at itself and see how it's progressing and do things in a different and sometimes better way. Of course, your portfolio is Minister of National Security. You would have been there was an announcement by the Prime Minister to add another minister to the portfolio, Minister Scotland Senior Counsel. How has that impacted the ministry's operation overall since that appointment?
Well, it's a little early to give any sensible assessment on that, but what I could tell you, it has impacted what I personally do, because now I have someone of intellect
experience. Of course, as you know, he chaired the Joint Select Committee of the Parliament on National Security. He would have acquired a tremendous amount of experience in that regard. He's a very prominent and outstanding legal practitioner, largely in the public law arena, including criminal law, and therefore he has a real wealth of experience. He's been in the Parliament for some years now, so he understands the workings of government and the Parliament. So he really does bring a great lift to us in an environment where crime is burgeoning, murders taking place by the minute almost in this experience. And he is to focus, along with me as minister, he is to focus specifically on the organization that we depend upon under the law and the Constitution to protect us from that increasing crime. So for my part, the more the merrier, and it's not simply more, but more of quality. So we are at the table getting the work done, and I'm only foreseeing good and positive outcomes.
Now, of course, in our environment, I should say, in our environment, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, in the ways of the Prime Minister, was in need of more significant attention. Hence, the Prime Minister / the Cabinet's decision to add resources to that portfolio. Minister Scotland SC now is responsible, and please correct me if I'm leaving out anything, with the TTPS, immigration and customs, and also he told us white collar crimes, I think, a week ago. What parts of the portfolio are you responsible for? And does it mean that you also are not, as the substantive minister, if that's a correct term, also collaborating with Minister Scotland on those areas?
No, we are both responsible for those areas. It is the Ministry of National Security, but he will give particular attention to those areas, particularly the police, which the government determined, including me, of course, needed more focus and attention, because it is the premier organization that stands in the gap to protect the citizens of this country from the criminality and the lawlessness that you see prevailing. So it is an improvement in the artillery and the response from the Ministry of National Security. Because, of course, as minister, you will know you wear in another hat, you sit on the Joint Select Committee yourself. And, of course, you know the very wide range of responsibility that is set with the Minister of National Security. And because of that, we felt that we should get some particular focus in an area where we needed it. So that's really what it is.
In terms of Minister Scotland, because he promised to go to Tobago, he did. Tobago is also receiving some significant attention. What sort of interventions do you expect in the next couple of weeks to months in Tobago, given the recent rise in homicides in Tobago? I think they were unfortunately 19 when last I checked.
Well, quite frankly, it is not what we expect. It is what is happening. I mean, about 2 months ago, before Mr. Scotland came to the ministry, we had begun a focus on Tobago. You will recall part of the operations in Tobago, we sent more troops there maybe about 2 months ago from the IATF, the Interagency Task Force. We sent more troops from the Guard and Emergency Branch to establish presence and the deterrent effect of that. They are patrolling all over Tobago along with their Tobago counterparts. Thereafter, we sent some from the Special Investigations Unit, which deals with gangs, because we realized the Tobago situation was gang influenced as well, largely so. And then we had a major operation before Mr. Scotland came on the roads with the Transport Commissioner and his team looking at the roads, because we know, like everybody else, the criminals use the roads, and a lot came out of their activity there. So it is ongoing, and we had given statistics about how these things have yielded results. And since then, we have indicated that about 6 persons were arrested and charged under the anti-gang law, demonstrating serious focus on that. And we are doing some other stuff around and affecting Tobago that might be imprudent for me to talk about. But certainly there's a lot of activity taking place in and around Tobago in order to push back the situation as you described it.
What does more attention being placed on the police service in a real sense mean with the addition of Minister Scotland SC in that portfolio? I mean, we can only guess sitting from the outside because the police service is run by the Commissioner of Police and her deputies, and a minister's portfolio is primarily policy and resource allocation and access. What does it mean from Minister Scotland's perspective of more attention being placed there?
Well, precisely that. I mean, there are lots of things they may need. For example, they will have issues for legislative reform with various pieces of criminal law based on their activity. Administering them might see shortcomings in this act or the other. There's that. Then you have a lot of issues around resource provision. I mean, they're always wanting vehicles and different stuff. And of course, they have issues about police stations, all of the matters that for which a minister is responsible are in copious demand from and through the police service. So, it's every aspect of it, whatever the ministerial responsibility is or has been, it needs more attention and more focus because it is the major platform, the police service, on which this society depends to prevent and to protect us against crime, and in an environment where more crimes, I mean, we are on 390 murders for the year. We killing one another like nothing. I read yesterday, again, on the 16th of August, I think it was, some fellas drinking in an unoccupied building in Gasparillo. One man is supposed to have had some money, a Premchand Nanan. May his soul rest in peace. The others want him to buy more rum from the reports available to us. He didn't want to do that. And someone among the group, person or persons, felt it was good to douse him with whatever alcohol, punch and rum was there, set the man alight after relieving the man of the little money he had. He sustained serious burns. He made his way home. When the police went to interview him, it wasn't possible for reasons they know best, and his condition. And then the next thing you know, a couple of days later, he died at the hospital. That's a murder. That's one of the 360 for which I will get blamed and have to account. But look at it, senseless in the extreme. Then you have another case a couple of days ago where a young man estranged from a woman with whom he had a very short relationship, a matter of 4 months or so from what I've been hearing. The young lady is indicating to him, based on what her family is saying, I don't want no relationship, leave me alone. He sees her in the company of someone, drives hazardously on the highway, gets to block them. Out they come, maybe chased away the gentleman. She might have been with some visitor. The next thing you know, he beat the woman with a wheel spanner, and when she's trying to flee, rams his car into her. Based on the allegations, all allegations at this stage, he was arrested, and now that's another one of the 360 murders. And shortly before that, just to give you another one, a son in a house with mother, an argument over a bill, and next thing you know, mother dead. And that is the state of affairs. That is the state of affairs. So there's a lot happening, and the police are in greater and greater demand, and therefore they will make greater demands for more explicit manifestations of the government's policy, more resources, and the various things, training opportunities internationally and otherwise so that they could keep step. All of these are things that ministers have some responsibility for in collaboration, of course, with the police commissioner and the police leadership. There's a lot.
Minister, one of the portfolios that was assigned to Minister Scotland is the issue of the customs and excise, in particular ports. You would have chaired the national security.
I think it's immigration, Paul, not customs and excise. Immigration.
All right. You would have chaired the JSC national security before, and Minister Scotland also subsequent to you. And on both occasions, in both your chairmanships, a lot of gaps had been identified at the ports, the legal ports of entry, you're on record as saying most of the illegal weapons coming into the country, causing the carnage in terms of murders and other crimes, are coming through legal ports. Is that also now going to receive more attention, seemingly because there doesn't seem to have been the kind of curtailment at the legal ports regarding illegal guns and drugs as one would expect, given the pronouncements about those issues?
Well, yes, I will expect more across the board. And by the way, in practical terms, I mean, all of these matters are, contiguous with each other, All of these matters, whether you have intelligence gathering and all of these things work together. These operations are very heavily intelligence driven. And what we have found is that corruption is at the heart of a lot of this. So you'll find a lot of in many cases, state officials who are complicitous to facilitating this through our legal ports. And in such circumstances, when illegal things come illegally, even through those ports, because of corruption and the facilitation by state officials, they are not detected. I remember answering a question recently in the parliament about the illegal guns coming through the legal ports. Let me repeat that for the benefit of the listeners. I answered a question in the parliament about illegal weapons coming through our legal ports, among other things. And yes, there's a tremendous amount of complicity on the part of others. As you know, we have these transit sheds and a lot of work has been done in those areas, and the tightening up continues. We have also entered into 2 international best practice arrangements called AirCop and CCOP. Both programs are operated internationally, and we signed on, and we have trained and we have personnel in both those 2 Trinidad versions, and we are working along with our international counterparts, sharing intelligence about what is expected in our shores. We share intelligence about what we might become aware of that might have left or is leaving. Sometimes for efficiency reasons, we make definite arrangements. But yes, a lot has been happening. We have improved a lot. And you will recall when we visited the Port Authority, and I understand, I've been pushing to get some improved security even on our CARICOM ports, and that is happening. So there's a lot that has been done and is being done. We have increased the number of the Port Authority police and various things. Lots of collaboration with the police service. The Port Authority itself has improved some security measures. Point Lisa similarly. So just to tell you, in essence, a lot has been done, but there's much more to be done, because the criminals and the traffickers, they are unrelenting in their pursuit of dollars, and so the state has to be unrelenting in its pursuit of the protection and the safety of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It's an ongoing business.
Minister, the Prime Minister at the opening of the Agri Expo recently was asked a question by reporters, journalists, about police-involved killings, and the Prime Minister's message was to criminal element. The police are trained. If you engage the police, you may lose your life. I'm paraphrasing there, of course. If I've inaccurately done so, I apologize. But that's the general message I got. There had been questions about in the last weekend about 6 persons reportedly opening fire on police, and all including a teenage girl getting killed. A couple of days before that, 3 persons engaging police and opening fire, according to police reports, and all being killed. The head of the PCA, director of the PCA, David West, recently made a statement indicating that for a particular time period, 84% of police-involved killings, there were no body cams being engaged. Is this something you are concerned about? And I'm not talking only about the number of persons who are losing their lives, because if they engage the police have the right to shoot back and protect themselves. But the fact that 84% of those engagements have no body cam footage to provide evidence of the narrative being proffered, either one way or the other.
Well, of course, I don't have all of the details of those investigations and what is in front of the PCA or the police for that matter at my disposal. And given the sensitive nature of this, it may not be appropriate for me to issue any comment upon it, because I have learned enough in public life here that whatever I say may have some kind of unanticipated implication or impact or outcome. And therefore, I am not sufficiently engaged in the matter to be able to answer your question sensibly. But the Prime Minister's comments, I heard them, I followed them, and he was saying to those of them who take that approach, it is a bad idea and they should act a little more sensibly, especially, and let me repeat this, in a space that is Trinidad and Tobago, where it can be forcefully argued that there is no lack of opportunity for these young people to pursue a more positive and progressive path, all the way up to PhD, all the way up to business magnate, all the way up to whatever. I mean, all of the skills, and they're all available to the youngsters in Trinidad and Tobago. That's what I understood the Prime Minister to have said.
You said you don't have the information to comment on it, but the police commissioner and previous commissioners are on record as saying that the use of body cams, particularly in situations that the police plan to go on exercises and are high risk, is standard operating procedure. So to hear the PCA director say in his investigations as the independent PCA body that 84% of these engagements have not had the use of body cams applied, to me should be of great concern. And this is not to, as some people suggest, to catch the police in any wrongdoing, but certainly to identify what actually happened in those high-risk engagements, when in many cases, if not all, the police would have come under fire. So I'm surprised that number of that percentage is what the PCA director identified.
Well, I understand the concerns expressed by the PCA commission, the PCA, and certainly I would want to hear from the police if that is so, and if so, why, or why not? And therefore, as I said, I'll pursue those as promptly as I have an opportunity to do. But I do not have the facts in front of me.
Let's move the conversation to the fire services. Recently, the head of the fire service union, for lack of a better name, I don't think it's a union, but the name escapes me now, has indicated association. Thank you for the correction. Has indicated that many fire stations are without operable fire tenders, and fire officers have been working without the use of personal protective gear, putting their lives in danger. In some instances, causing them injury. How do you respond to that?
Well, I have responded publicly to that and continue to say, based on my information, which I would have gotten from the Fire Service Administration led by the Chief Fire Officer, including up to Friday, having sat with him and gone through the list of their assets and saw that which is under repair, those which are in service, it is absolutely not true to say, as he has said. I do not know what is inspiring, tickling the Fire Service Association leader, but he continues to make those comments. He's entitled to do that. I wouldn't begrudge him of that, but I say to you, based on information available to me from the Fire Service, up to Friday, that is not the case. It is, of course, a situation where you will always, like every individual, every household, every business, public or private, you would always want or need more resources.
But the provision of resources for the organizations in national security, including the fire service, is as old as when they were born. In other words, vehicles will get old, they need to be repaired, a vehicle will get in an accident. It's an ongoing thing. But to say that most of the vehicles are inoperable is absolutely not correct, based on the information that I, as minister, received up to Friday from the fire service chief. And the fire service chief and fire service administration put out a release saying so about maybe 2.5 weeks ago, after the association made the comment. And since then, the comment was repeated. So it's just that kind of tit for tat toing and froing that I would rather live without. I can give you the assurance to, based on information available to me, that is indeed not the case.
Opposition MP Dr. Rudal Monila over the weekend made a call for an audit of the assets of the Trinidad and Tobago Coast Guard and suggested that from his reports, more than 80 or 90% of the vessels of the TT Coast Guard are inoperable. Could you care to comment on that?
What I have said in public, and I'll repeat now, is just like vehicles, vessels are in need of maintenance and so on. And we are undergoing under contract a repair program now. And of all of the vessels in the Damen fleet, and we are anticipating that they will all in the next few months be back in full service, starting from in a few weeks' time in the month of September. The first of the 12 will be back with us because they have been sent off on a contractor for dry docking in Suriname and sorting out by the Damen company with whom we contracted, and that is what is happening. So we would have obtained some vessels from the US recently, which we have in our asset base, and therefore it's a work in progress. It's ongoing. It's ongoing.
How many vessels does the TT Coast Guard possess presently?
I don't want to take the chance to say that off my head. You might think that, I know of the 12 vessels, the Damen fleet, 4 patrols, 2 service vessels, and 6 ship's boats. I know of the 2 Cape class vessels that we have, but I know they have other vessels, and I don't want to comment blindly upon it.
But the vessels you identified are on dry dock and being maintained presently. Is the TT Coast Guard in a vulnerable position because of these vessels that are on dry dock at this time? Does it compromise the operation of the Coast Guard?
Well, whenever a vessel is not in service, to that extent, we would have all been better off if it was. But just like a human being will be on 48 hours leave, or vacation leave, or sick leave, assets are to be maintained too, and that's the reality of the thing, Sometimes, I remember some time ago there was heavy rainfall and the communication system to the station fell down. Things happen, and therefore, it's an ongoing business of repair and maintenance and that's what's happening.
With respect, Minister, the communication system to a radio station going down and the Coast Guard having adequate vessels shows are completely different situations.
Don't split hairs in a comparison, Paul. I merely said that you have, for example, accidents. You have something will happen, and therefore you need to maintain, you need to repair, and there's provision for that.
So let me rephrase the question. Are you comfortable that the Coast Guard presently, even though maintenance works are going on some of the vessels, have adequate assets to adequately patrol the nation shores to your satisfaction?
Well, the next story is, we've had to answer in the parliament in the past questions about whether we can maintain or manage our borders 24/7 all around the clock. And we made it clear, we don't know of any country in the world, including the United States, with all of its wealth and with all of its assets. There are incursions into the United States by refugees, by asylum seekers, by illegal immigrants. You have this. So we use the resources that are available to us as best as Trinidad and Tobago could afford. We take guidance from the Coast Guard, from the experts actually, in terms of what they need, and we try to provide them. And when it's time for maintenance or repair, and requests are made of us as they are, we then again provide resources and engage in contracts and so on to ensure that they are repaired and brought back into service. Yeah? Hello?
Minister, I just have I want to raise two issues with you this morning. And it's something that we would have been discussing extensively on the Power Breakfast show. That is cameras, in terms of how we use them to track criminals who would have perpetrated certain crimes and they are getting away. That's one. And the issue of a helicopter that could assist also too in tracking these getaway vehicles when they commit their crimes and so on. Where are we with that? Because I've driven the East-West corridor, and on some lampposts I see as much as 5 and 6 cameras. Are those things in operation, and how are they being used?
They are in operation. They are monitored by the National Operations Center. They are monitored 24 hours a day. We have just installed another 2,500 of them. And yes, they are used to analyze crime patterns and escape routes and so on to great success. Recently, there was a murder of a woman in central Trinidad, and I was fortunate to have met the investigator in the matter who would have shared with me that those cameras played a very central role in the arrest and charge of someone for that murder. So the answer to your question is yes.
The Ministry of Education recently also identified that the Education Ministry and the ministry that you run, you oversee, Ministry of National Security, are working on the issue of migrant children entering our schools in September, the upcoming school term. And that will be for minor children of parents who have registered in 2019 and have updated that registration, I think twice or 3 times subsequent to that. Are there plans to do that registration update anytime soon, as has been done in the last couple of years?
Yeah. That is ongoing. We did it recently. We re-register them. We give them the opportunity to continue to stay and to work in that registration framework. And it is their children who we are making accommodation for. We amended the immigration regulations some time ago, as you might know or recall, in order to facilitate that. And I understand that it is working quite well. And we are on course with that for all of the value that it offers.
And finally, has the Commissioner of Police given you an update or report on how their work is being impacted by the recently amended and passed Bail Act in the Parliament, because there was a concern about the number of persons and multiple charges, particularly gun charges, accessing bail? Has they report on how that has impacted the police work?
Well, again, in my honest view, it's a little early to say how it is affecting crime patterns in Trinidad and Tobago, but I am happy to know, and the Commissioner and her officers are happy to know, that the law is in place, and along with the amendments that came in the JIPA product, and therefore, yes, we expect it will be all to put the citizens in a better position. It would be advantageous to the citizens of this country if these repeat offenders and those affected by the Bail Act are denied bail. The new JIPA system is on the way, and the police are familiarized. Well, they have familiarized themselves with it, fine-tuning it now, and there's a lot of collaboration taking place between the judiciary and the police in order to, as I say, fine-tune those things so that they will work seamlessly and hopefully bring benefit to investigations and outcomes in terms of crime behavior, criminal behavior, and certainly better protection for the people of the country. So it's happening, and it must continue.
On a selfish note, can you identify to the population if there are other pieces of legislation coming to the Parliament or going to the Parliament in terms of national security in the next session?
Yes, I have the private security bill that I had caused to be prepared when I was in the office of the Attorney General. It has been on the order paper for a while. We've preserved it. We went to a joint select committee. We met a very intransigent and troublesome UNC there. We went there, we went through everything, and so on. We settled some positions, and when we came back to the larger parliament, they balked again. They put up resistance, signaling they will not support it because at that time it required a special majority to create the office of the Inspector of Private Securities to allow him to be able to go into private security firms to check their books at any hour of the day or night to see if they have illegal weapons there, how they're managing them and all of that. And the UNC take big objection over that. Well, we've realized in recent times the Rye effect must have worked powerfully on them, and they have behaved a little differently with certain pieces of legislation within recent times, including the Bail Act. So we are coming back to Parliament with that, as you know, with 50,000 private security operators, a lot of them untrained, and without proper strength and organization. This private security bill is intended to regulate the private security industry. And if we were able to achieve that, it means that 50,000 persons, it means 100,000 fresh eyes, 100,000 legs, 100,000 hands could work along with the law enforcement, the state law enforcement agencies more collaboratively, because they are in places everywhere around the country, more eyes, more feet, more minds, and therefore we will have a better handle on what is happening. So we want to regulate the private security industry. So for one thing, you could expect that very early in the new term.
What effect did you mention? I missed that. What effect was that?
I said 50,000 persons employed in the private security industry, in some cases untrained and so on. We want to regulate it to ensure that they are properly trained.
I was being facetious, Master. You said some sort of effect impacted the opposition's vote. Minister, thank you for being us this morning.
Thank you very much, Minister Hines.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much, gentlemen. And I have been watching very quickly. I've been watching some analyses. For example, Debbie Jacob in today's paper, she wrote a piece about crime, and she focused on the human being. So, I've been watching some of that too, and we, the government, understand too that apart from law enforcement and the enforcement of laws, we have to continue to create pathways for the young people, opportunities, so that they will choose right rather than ugly and crime and end up in the conditions that we do. Thank you.
Minister Hines, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank
you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All the best.
I think one of the most difficult questions in this country, I don't know how come, but it seems to be a very, very difficult question in this country, is the issue of police and body cams. It is the most difficult question in this country.
Let me tell you something. The Jamaican Prime Minister said it the other day, and he told those young fellas too, they're either going to meet the judge or they're going to meet the maker, So it's not new in terms of what Prime Minister Rowley said recently.
Well, it's not novel. If you choose a path of crime and you continue on that path, eventually you may end up on the wrong side of a gun, unfortunately, and you may forfeit your life. Particularly if you decide to open fire on police officers. My issue is that is a very serious issue, but the question about the evidential material coming out of those exchanges continues to elude us in terms of our questioning of the relevant authorities. Is that not so? There's never a cogent answer. There's never an answer. It's either we don't know, we do get back to you, we don't know, I can't make a comment on that. Body cams is the greatest mystery of Trinidad and Tobago right now.
And it is dangerous enough that rogue officers can use that to their advantage, and that is the fear. Not the good ones who are. There's
always a presumption that when we ask these questions, what are you asking for that for? I saw a comment today, what were you asking that, for? Because it's about accountability.
Yes, it's people's lives at the end of the day.
And there are almost always conflicting accounts of what happened in those encounters.
Yes.
And I'm not saying the police are right. I'm not saying the police are wrong. I'm saying in the absence of body cam footage, we will never get the truest representation of what happened. It's always going to be somebody's account of what happened.
Yeah.
And to me, the body cams are standard operating procedure in our other jurisdictions that we like to call that we send off our sister train. But for some reason, that is the greatest mystery in Trinidad and Tobago. Coming up just after 8 o'clock news, economist Martha Dukran will talk to Denise Deming on Power Conversations. You will have a great Monday. Be productive and be happy.
Bye-bye. Have a great day, folks. Remember to let go and let God.
All right, gentlemen, do have a great one. Let's get into 8 o'clock news brief. AV is in.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is time for a news update to 8 o'clock. I'm Avril Sintel-Bob. Good morning. About 2 months ago, before Minister in the Ministry of National Security Keith Scotland's appointment, efforts were afoot to focus on increasing crime in Tobago by sending officers there. This is according to Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines. He told the Power Breakfast Show this morning that gang activity has been of particular concern as having direct links to violence prevailing on the island. And to that end, there have been some arrests of gang members recently on the island. He lamented the willingness of persons to commit senseless murders, referencing the recent murder of a young woman who was beaten with a wheel spanner and then ran over with the vehicle of a man who she was said to have been in a relationship with some time ago before ending it. He also spoke of the murder of a 57-year-old woman, Mala Buduram, by her son. He said these situations led to senseless murders of innocent persons. He revealed that corruption continues to be an issue at the country's ports of entry. He said because of the facilitation of corrupt state officials, illegal weapons are making their way through legal ports of entry. He said there has been a lot of collaboration with the police service and much has been done to ensure that the situation is dealt with. However, he said that those responsible are unrelenting in their efforts since money is of the utmost importance to them. There are plans to remove the 3 ships of Christopher Columbus from Trinidad and Tobago's coat of arms and replace them with the national instrument, the steel pan. The change is expected to be finalized before Republic Day, September 24th. There will also be a 6-month transition period to facilitate changes to stationery and other official materials. This move was revealed by Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley while addressing the People's National Movement's special convention on Sunday evening. Caribbean Airlines says a flight that experienced a technical issue on Sunday landed safely at Piarco International Airport. CAL says the aircraft has been temporarily withdrawn from service for inspection following the incident. According to the airline, flight BW1509 operating between Tobago and Trinidad on Sunday, August 18th, experienced a technical issue en route to Trinidad, specifically a warning light that came on in the cockpit. The pilots initiated the relevant operating procedure and the aircraft landed safely and taxied to a gated position at the Piarco International Airport where all passengers and crew disembarked. And family and friends said their final farewells to 8-year-old Nalisha Sophia Narayan yesterday. She lost her life last week, Wednesday, due to complications from the dengue virus. The child's parents are claiming that Nalisha, called Dolly by her loved ones, was showing signs of the dengue virus and was taken to the Indian Walk Health Center 2 Fridays ago. She was not given any medication and the family was told to return in 5 days for a dengue test. The family said the symptoms worsened, however, and Nalisha was taken to the Princestown District Hospital on August 11th. Upon arrival, doctors told them to go straight to the San Fernando Hospital. Dolly passed away on Wednesday morning at the San Fernando General Hospital from dengue, an aunt said. Well, that was your update to 8 o'clock. Look out for news in full at 12 noon.
Hi. Hi. Good morning, Marla. Generally, I will have an introduction. Am I being introduced today? No, they've gone. So
Good morning, Denise Deming. You jumped the gun there a little bit. Good morning to you. Welcome again on this Monday.
Thank you very much. And on this morning's conversation, we have Marla Dukaran. And persons who are listening, we invite you to comment. We invite you to call because we want to hear your opinion. The whole idea behind this is for the man in the street, I call it the person in the maxi, to understand what we're talking about and to feel committed. Remember, you can call us on 222-TALK. That's 222-8255. If you're in the US or Canada, it's toll-free 866-525-1099. That's 866-525-1099. And if you wish to WhatsApp, it's 868-318-1021. That's 868-318-1021. So having said all of that, Marla, it is such a pleasure to have you here. I know you as an economist. I know you as a TED speaker. Who else is Marla Dukaran?
Good morning, Denise. Thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. And who else am I? Apart from being an economist, I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a friend, I'm all of those wonderful things. So I'm just delighted to be here. Hopefully I'll be able to clear up some of the questions and misconceptions that people have had and even have reached out to me with regarding the whole errors and omissions item and, you know, the fact that we've lost as a country over 25 billion US dollars since 2011. I know a lot of people are like, that number is just too big, it's ridiculous. It can be very technical. So anyway, I'm grateful that you've invited me on so that I can perhaps clear up some of these misconceptions and questions around this issue.
Thank you very much, Marla. And you said you're a mom, you're a sister, you're a mother, you're all of that. And that I find absolutely wonderful because a lot of our women seem to have just lost their voices in our country. So thank you very much for being here. I want to begin with asking you to explain foreign exchange. We know explain, what is foreign exchange?
So many countries have their own currency, right? We have our own, the Trinidad and Tobago dollar. Foreign currency is basically, it's a general term referring to the currency of other countries, foreign to us. So foreign currency could be Barbados dollars, Jamaican dollars, US dollars, pound sterling. So literally that's what it means. But I think in the regular conversations people have, when we say Forex or when we say foreign currency in Trinidad and Tobago, generally we mean the US dollar. I mean, the US dollar is still the most important currency globally for trade. Most international trade is conducted in US dollars and most commodities are priced in US dollars still. So generally people mean foreign currency. When they say foreign currency, they mean US dollars. And what does that mean? Why is that important? A country like Trinidad and Tobago, we are a small country. We don't produce everything we consume. And so we have to import. And so to import, we cannot pay a producer in China or in the US or Canada or Europe. We can't pay them in Trinidad and Tobago dollars, obviously, because what will they do with it? We have to pay them in a currency that makes sense for them. And like I said, most international trade is conducted in US dollars. So we have to earn, as a country, we have to earn foreign currency in order to pay for our imports. And that's why it's so important for not just Trinidad and Tobago, but all small open economies. It's a challenge that we have all over the world, but in the Caribbean, it's a particular challenge that we have. There are various ways of managing foreign currency. For example, in the Eastern Caribbean, you must have heard of the EC dollar, as well as in the Cayman Islands. They have something called a currency board arrangement where they only print as much local currency as they can back in US dollars. And that, some would argue, makes for better management of foreign exchange reserves. That's not what we do. We used to, but that's not what we do. And we have to earn US dollars as a nation in order to pay for the imports of the goods and services that we want, that we don't produce ourselves.
So the foreign currency is that in Trinidad is really the US dollar, and we need it in order to purchase things that we eat, to purchase cars, to purchase all kinds of things. Almost everything that we need to earn foreign currency in order to pay for it, because our dollar is of no use outside. Needs to be saying to themselves, listen, if we do not earn foreign exchange, I can't buy a book, or I can't buy an apple, or I can't buy that pair of sneakers. So
Or
that's
medicine.
So that's what the whole foreign exchange and the foreign currency thing is about, and that's how it impacts a person on the maxi. But for many years, we earned foreign exchange by oil. How has that changed?
Oil and gas are still our main export commodity in Trinidad and Tobago. It's somewhere between 3/4, 80% on average, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on production and price. But that's generally the majority of our exports. That's how we earn our foreign exchange. So what happens is the producers of oil and gas, largely foreign-owned companies like BP, BHP, they export oil and gas, and they pay our government royalties for the oil and gas extracted and exported, and then they pay profits on the sale of these commodities, and they pay these things in US dollars to the government of Trinidad and Tobago, and that's how the government of Trinidad and Tobago earns US dollars that then goes into the reserves of the central bank.
So the person in the maxi is saying, so what's the problem? We still have oil, we still have gas, so we're still earning foreign exchange. So what is the problem?
That's a valid point. What's the problem? I mean, I think the problem is the average person is severely restricted in terms of their access to foreign currency. I've seen so many and heard so many people say, and I've experienced it myself, you want to travel and you go to the bank and you ask for whatever sum of money, foreign currency, to travel, and you're lucky if you get $200. Even if you have a US dollar bank account in the banks in Trinidad, let's say you have 10,000 US dollars in your bank account, and you go to the bank and you say, I would like 1,000 US dollars. Generally, they won't have it. So it is a problem. The availability of foreign currency in our country for the average person is problematic. And it is something that I have seen so many entrepreneurs complain about. And also, I've seen so many entrepreneurs make a business out of this fact that we have this tightness of foreign currency availability in Trinidad and Tobago. The whole explosion of crypto in Trinidad, and the fact that people are mining and trading, and the fact that people are able to use other people's credit cards and things like that, all of that is done to circumvent this tightness or lack of availability of foreign currency to the average person. So that's what affects the average man in the maxi, as you said. If he or she wants to go abroad to visit family, they're likely to get a couple $100 US if they're lucky, and they're able to use their credit cards if they have overseas, if they have US dollar credit cards. But then the banks have been imposing tighter and tighter restrictions and limits on how much US dollars you can spend via your credit card. So, and it's only getting worse. So that's how it affects the average person. And, when I wrote this article about the fact that we've lost over 25 billion US dollars since 2011, when I calculate the per capita loss, meaning per person in our country, we are the biggest losers on this planet. We've lost 16,000 US dollars per person. And think about what 16,000 US dollars could have done for the average man in the maxi who might want to go travel, but he can't because he can't get US dollars, who might want to have bought things online instead of having to buy them in Trinidad at a multiples times the price that he sees it on Amazon.com. So this is how it affects the average person. It's 16,000 plus 16,000 US dollars per person. And if you ask the average man in the maxi, have you had access to 16,000 US dollars since 2011? I think the average person will say to you, I wish I did, and hasn't. So that's basically how it affects us.
So it means that since 2011, you are saying that we have lost 16,000 US dollars per person between 2011 and today.
And the end of 2022.
Yeah.
I didn't count 23 in that data, sorry.
Okay. And that is fine because it is such a dramatic figure. When you talked about $25 billion has disappeared from the country, the person in Maxi is saying, how do you mean disappear? What do you mean?
Yeah.
They must know where it is. So what do you mean by it has disappeared?
Right.
Is it not accounted for? What is it?
That's exactly it. It's not accounted for. I mean, it could have. So, okay. From the time we start to measure something, we start to make mistakes, right? If I try to measure my height, it will come in at just under 5 feet, but I identify it as 5 feet tall, right? Depending on which scale I use, you will get a slightly different reading, right, Denise? Every time you try to measure something, you will make mistakes. And like I said in my original article, there are statistical errors wrapped up in that 25 billion. There are statistical errors. Every country has an errors and omissions item. It's just that ours is the largest per capita in the world. So there are statistical errors. Why is it that we have a number that's so big, the largest in the world, and we haven't heard anybody say anything about it? There's no alarm raised by the authorities or any investigation into it. So it tells us that there's this problem that is not being addressed. Now, how does this happen? Well, you have all of these inflows of foreign currency, as I outlined earlier, which are largely due to our exports of oil and gas and the taxes paid by the oil and gas companies to our government that then makes its way into our foreign exchange reserves held at the central bank. And these reserves are sold to the banks at, over time, a certain amount every month or so is sold to the banks so that the banks can then sell to people like us and the importers of food and manufactured goods and medicine and so on. The thing is, all of the inflows show that we have earned, let's say, $10 in exports. And all the records we have of our outflows, meaning our imports, our outflows of US dollars, has shown, for example, that we have outflows of $5, right? Which means we should have $5 left over in our reserves, right? The problem is we only have $3 in the reserves. And so the errors and omissions item in the balance of payments account is that item that captures what's missing. And what's missing is $2 in my example, or roughly $2 billion US every year in Trinidad and Tobago on average. So that means that there's been an inflow that's been accounted for, an outflow that's been accounted for. So $10 inflow, $5 outflow, yes. And we should have $5 left over, but we only have $3. So $2 have flown out somehow, has left somehow, or is unaccounted for somehow in the statistics. And we have to be able to explain this amount. Now, the errors and omissions item, like I said, is something that every country has. And the IMF says on average, it should not be more than 2 to 3% of GDP. Well, ours is the number 21 in the world in terms of size relative to GDP. There are only 20 countries that have a larger errors and omissions item relative to GDP. than ours. And it's well over, I mean, in total, from 2011 till 2020, end of 2022, it's 77% of our GDP.
Just a minute. Just now.
Yeah.
Mala, you said that 77% of our
yes,
GDP?
If you add it up, the same 23 up to 2020, end of 2022, or 25 billion, it's approaching 80% of our GDP.
That is, explain that, unaccounted for?
Yes. So if you want, I have my Excel here open, and I can tell you the countries where they have larger errors and omissions relative to GDP. Wait, there were 3 countries, relative to GDP. There are only 3 countries that are larger than us. And it was, let me find that data.
So,
while I find that.
While you're looking for the data.
Liberia, no. Yes, while I'm looking for
My
it.
understanding is that we are that set of countries where we are exceptional. But this is not a positive, it's not being positively exceptional.
No. So between 2011 and 2022, we are at, let's say, 77% of GDP. Are you hearing me? Sorry.
I am hearing you. Ignore it when the internet falls apart. Just continue.
So we have Djibouti at 151% of their GDP. We have Liberia at 212% of their GDP. We have the Marshall Islands at 116% of their GDP. We are 77%. So those are these 3 countries. Sorry, I said 20 earlier. It's 20 that are larger than us in absolute terms. There are only 3 countries that have larger in relative to GDP errors and omissions between 2011 and 2022. Ours is 77% of GDP. If we count the 2023 figure, it's closer to 80% of GDP. So only 3 countries, and I'll call those 3 countries again: Liberia, Marshall Islands, and Djibouti.
Mm-hmm. So that is we're in this 77 to 80% range. Mm-hmm. And what is a range that is acceptable for errors and omissions?
2 to 3,
because
no more than 2 or 3% of GDP a year.
You talked about. So, Mala, let's move on, because this is complicated for the person in the maxi. What do you think has gone wrong?
So, like I said earlier, obviously there are errors in measurement, right? One is not disputing that. Like I mentioned in my original article, there will be errors in measurement. However, if the biggest explanatory factor, the biggest explanation of this mistake, this error, was statistical, then you would find that one year it's big, one year it's small, one year it's positive, one year it's negative. It's going to be all over the place because it's statistical error. It's measurement error. If I go to the supermarket, I get one weight. If I go to my scale, it's another weight. If I go to the pharmacy, I get another weight. It's all over the place because it's errors. But when every single year you have a negative figure, you know that there's something more than mismeasurement happening there. When every single year it's large, so no, since 2011, outside of COVID, it's never zero, it's never $1 or $10. It's always large. And when you have a consistent negative figure, there's a pattern in this error. So which means it's not all error, right? So for example, if my scale consistently tells me I'm 105, but the one in the supermarket tells me I'm 100, then I know my scale, my scale is 5 pounds off, right? There's a pattern in the error. so we know that there's a pattern in this error. So we know that there's not just error, there's something else happening here. And before I explain what I think is also a factor in addition to statistical error and mismeasurement and so on, let me just give some context so that the average person or anybody can understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. So there was a report issued recently by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime that talked about drugs, and I will read the title here, Caribbean Gangs, Drugs, Firearms, and Gangs Networks in Jamaica, St. Lucia, Guyana, and Trinidad and Tobago. I really highly recommend anybody interested in here reading about what's happening in our country to read this report. I'm going to put the link here in this chat, right, so that you have it. And this report talks about something we know a lot about, which is that we sit in a region in between, physically in between, drugs being produced in South America and consumers in the global north, in North America and Europe, consuming the drugs. And we're in the middle, right, where the drugs are transshipped through the Caribbean, the weapons are transshipped through the Caribbean, and other things, human trafficking as well. And then you have the money that goes back down to the producers in South America that passes through our region. So we're caught in this crossfire of drugs and weapons and money, dirty money, flowing in different directions, right? So we are very vulnerable to, I mean, you would have seen that the former Premier of the British Virgin Islands was just, his sentence was just fixed at 11 years for participating in the drugs trade, right? Because he was caught in an undercover operation in the States. So this is not news, right? So we are very vulnerable to this type of activity. And I believe that part of why we have such a big errors and omissions item is possibly because there is some element of money laundering and monies moving in relation to the drug trade and weapons trade in Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, so I think there is some element of that happening in our country. The second thing I will say as it relates to what might be happening is we have a situation where the authorities in Trinidad and Tobago have mismanaged the foreign exchange management regime. And it's something that I have written about for a long, long time. And there was something that I went back to that I read, that I wrote some time ago, that talks about the fact that if you continue to have a situation where you are, let me read what I wrote. And I wrote this back in 2017, okay? The authorities' de facto foreign exchange controls in Trinidad and Tobago are in breach of the IMF's Article 8, to which we as a nation are signatories. We are signatories to an agreement and our authorities are in breach of that. So this is state-sponsored lawlessness, okay? According to the IMF's June 2016 report, Trinidad and Tobago maintains an exchange restriction and 2 multiple currency practices. The exchange restriction arises from the authorities' restriction of the exchange rate. I'm quoting from the IMF here. The exchange restriction arises from the authorities' restriction of the exchange rate, i.e., by restricting the maximum market buy and sell rates and prohibiting foreign exchange transactions beyond the maximum rates, while not providing enough foreign exchange to meet all of the demand for current transactions at that rate. So they're controlling the price and they're controlling the quantity. The CBTT also limits sales of its foreign exchange intervention funds to meet only trade-related demand, which does not include non-trade transactions that are, however, international transactions under the IMF's definition and should not be restricted. In other words, they are restricting transactions when it's against the law and against the treaty that they've signed to not restrict transactions. The IMF went on to say, these actions result in undue delays in access to foreign exchange to make payments or transfers for international transactions and external payments. When you do this, when you breach the agreements that you've made about how you're going to manage your foreign exchange, what you do is you create an expectation, one, that you will continue to change it, and two, that you are creating a situation where there's more demand than supply. So there is incentive for people to take as much foreign currency out of the country as they can, or to hoard as much foreign currency as they can. And so I believe another aspect of what explains this large outflow unaccounted for that we see every year is the fact that we have an incentive to do so based on how the authorities are mismanaging our foreign exchange. Those are the things that I think are accounting for the errors and omissions.
So Mala, when you this very large, this statement that was very exciting and so on, $25 billion disappeared. What was your intention? Why did you make that comment? Why did you write that article? Why did you make that video? What was your intention?
Well, Denise, I've been writing about this for many years. I mean, I just cited a 2017 article I wrote. I had written about it before. So I've been writing about this for many years. My intention is to get the authorities to do something about it, to determine what is exactly causing the outflow and to fix it. Because this is money that is extremely scarce, US dollars, extremely scarce for some people in our country. And it's not a small amount. And we have the biggest problem in the world in terms of per capita loss of foreign exchange via the errors and omissions item. So we are the largest loser in the world. So clearly everybody's got this problem, but ours is the biggest by far. So my intention was, and I hope that the Auditor General, for example, takes note, and when she's auditing, the government's accounts and the central bank's accounts, I hope she takes a closer look at how the reserves are being managed. And hopefully the authorities will find the time, the energy, the political will to solve this problem.
You talk about finding the political will to solve this problem. Have you any thoughts on what that solution would look like?
Well, in the first place, we have to do an investigation to see what's happening. All of the money that comes into our country officially it comes in via the banking system, right? Via wire transfers, and the banks keep records of this. That much I am very sure of. Also, all the money leaving officially, whether via wire transfer or credit cards, the banks have records of this. That much I'm sure of. So we're looking for something that's outside of the banking system. We're looking for something that is either within the banking system and not recorded properly or not reported. And if it's not reported, why is it not reported? So I think that it's fair to say that all the official flows that are above board are all there on paper somewhere, and the banking sector does a very good job of reporting their statistics to the central bank. We then have to think about what's happening that is deliberately being obfuscated, and somebody is deliberately trying to hide something, or there's something very big that's somehow not being captured. And what does it look like? They need to do an investigation to find it and put systems in place to record what's not being recorded.
So Mala, as we wrap this half hour of our presentation, and I thank you for being here. If you were the Prime Minister, how would you have responded? I don't want to use a word that is quoted in his response, but how would you have responded to Mala Dukaran? Silence, Mala?
I think any responsible policymaker, leader should have responded with shock if he didn't know that this was how bad this problem was, and should have said, I will make it a priority to deal with this problem, to find out exactly what's happening and to fix it. That's what I would have hoped from anybody in authority in my country.
So what you would have is someone to acknowledge that your $25 billion statement, find out if it is true, and then do something to improve it. But it seems as if we've just walked away from this $25 billion and from the negativity that it is impacting our country with. So Mala, I'm very hopeful about our country, that things are going to improve. Don't know how and when, but I'm hopeful that things will improve. What is your parting word for our audience?
Continue to hold authority to account. They're only there because we elected them, and we elected them to make our lives better. And if they're not doing that, we need to hold them to account. We need to continue. Everybody needs to do their part to hold authority to account in our country. Your previous program, they talked about accountability. That to me is fundamental. That's the fundamental problem we have. Nobody is held to account. Anybody that tries is, vilified, but that's okay. You have to keep doing it. We need to become the majority, those of us who dare to hold power to account.
Thank you ever so much, Mala, and continue to have a wonderful.
Thank you for having me, Denise. Have a wonderful week ahead. Take care.
And the next person, thank you, bye. And we move away from economics to sports. And in our studio, we have someone who is the chef de mission for our Paralympic committee. And this person, Mickey Rubin. Mickey, tell us something about you.
Well, good morning, Denise, and it's nice for you to have me. Well, who is Mickey Rubin? Mickey Rubin is a former athlete, coach, a therapist, administrator, a sports agent. So I'm somebody who loves sports and is surrounded by every aspect of it.
So tell us, you're a former athlete. What kind of athlete were you?
Okay, I was a decathlete. I represented Trinidad at Curveta CAC Pan Am Juniors. I had the Curveta Games record at one point in the heptathlon.
And in what kind of sport? What did you do? Were you 400 or what?
No, I did decathlons. I did combined events. So I was one of those who were good at most everything.
So you were a decathlon athlete. And how popular is that sport in Trinidad? Is the decathlon sport in Trinidad? All right, it seems as if.
Yeah, decathlon is not a very popular event within the track and field arena, for the mere fact that it takes a lot of work. When everybody trains for one event, you have to train for 10. So your schedule on a training track is a lot tighter. The effects on your body is a lot harder. And then when you get to competition, you are out there for 2 days, event after event, when everybody's looking from the stands after one.
All right, tell us a little bit about the 10 sports that you participated in, and how was it? I'm asking this because you're going to be saying, what are they talking about that?
Okay, well, in the decathlon, it's 2 days of competition. It starts with a 100 meters, so you have to be a sprinter. Then it goes to long jump, then shot put, then high jump, and then a 400 meters on the first day, right? And then you come back on the second day and you will do 110 hurdles, you do the discus throw, pole vault, javelin, and then a 1500 meters to round it up.
That is amazing. And I really wish to congratulate you for representing our country in that way and for even preparing for it. So tell us, why are you supporting Paralympics?
All right, so it's Paralympics, and the reason that I'm involved is that I love sport, right? And when I moved back in from Jamaica, I had the pleasure of coaching a para-athlete. And while involved with coaching that athlete, I met the administration and we started to talk and realized that they had a serious desire to improve sport within their spheres in Trinidad. And because of my love for sport, I just decided, hey, I'm going to come on board and help you to build this sport as best I can.
Mm-hmm. You said you were in Jamaica. There seems to be a pause between my question and if you're hearing, but we'll work with that. You said you trained or supported a Paralympic athlete in Jamaica. What did you learn from living in Jamaica about sports?
All right, so the athlete was in Trinidad, but I lived in Jamaica for 12 years, right? I worked with the top clubs. I coached high school, so I was Usain Bolt, Asafa Powell, Shelley and Fraser Price, their personal therapists. I also designed like strength workouts for both Usain Bolt and the Racers Track Club. So it was plenty years just working with professional track and field only.
So what observation have you made about Jamaica and compared it to Trinidad in terms of sports? What would be your observation?
Okay, well, in Jamaica, there's a definite difference in mentality, because for some in Jamaica, sport is their way out, right? As my father usually say, in Trinidad, we're just too happy, you know? And as far as the goals of athletes in Jamaica is quite different from the goals of athletes in Trinidad, right? Because for Trinidadians treat sport a little more like it's a pastime, like even from the parents' view and stuff like that. But Jamaicans treat sport like a multi-million-dollar business. This is the way that I'm going to get my mother that house. This is the way that, I'm going to get myself out of this zinc fence community that I live in. That's the biggest difference.
And that's an amazing comparison that you've used. You said that Jamaica treats sport as a Trinidad, we do it as well. You do it now, it's all right. As opposed to how can you benefit from this? I just want to move away a little from that because we can't change that, and representing our country at the Paralympic sports.
Right, I missed a piece of what you said there. It was a little choppy. Can you repeat that? Yes.
I'm just asking how many persons will be representing Trinidad and Tobago at the Paralympics?
Okay, we have just one. It will be Akeem Stewart in the F46 distance, but it's just one. And I'm sure you're wondering why it's just one.
So please tell me, why is it just one?
Okay, all right. So it's twofold. So one, the athletes that we had in our cadre before have, a few of them have retired, whether due to age or other family commitments, right? The other one is that the process in which it is to recruit and train a para-athlete is very different from an athlete in other spheres. So basically, for one athlete, this is the process. I'll try and make it as quick as possible. You have to find somebody with a disability that is within the list of medical reasons that is on the IPC's list. Then you have to make sure that it has the minimum qualifications to be classifiable. And then after that is where the process gets even more sticky. You cannot compete at any Paralympics or World Championships unless you are internationally classified. It's not done anywhere in the Caribbean, so which means you have to find airfare and accommodation for a week and a half, 2 weeks for these athletes to go to get this first set of classification. Then they have to find a meet, because you can only be classified at a meet. And then after that, you have to fly them back and forth to meets to get qualifications, because unlike how you could come to an entry meet here and qualify for Olympics or World Championships, you have to compete at the IPC meet, which there are none in Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago, we do not have a lot of para-athletes. And when you talk about a para-athlete, you're talking about someone with a disability. So is it that we do not have enough people with disabilities who are getting involved in sports?
Right. So there's a lot of people who have the misconception that once you have a disability, you are able to compete in parasport, because parasport have a specific list of disabilities and specific degrees of disabilities. That one. The secondly, that the mentality towards people with disabilities on the whole, not just for sport, is that you can't do this or you are limited to doing this or that, right? Where parents would tell their kids, no, you can't. So they would not think of even trying to sign up for a sports team or join a sports club. I had asked someone to speak to a young lady with short stature at one point, right? And when they asked if she wanted to try competing in sport, she started to cry, right? So when they came back to me and I was trying to find out why, it's because her parents had told her before that she can't do this and the other thing. So she thought that it would have been embarrassing for her to even try to compete in sport. And that's the mentality we are dealing with right now. So we kind of try to fight against that to be able to get our cadre of athletes up.
So what would you suggest that we should do to encourage more people who have disabilities and might have the potential to be? What should we be doing to encourage that?
Okay, so what we are doing now is education, and I'm not just talking about education from within the sports community. I'm talking about education on a wide basis, right? So in schools, you need to have that education for the teachers. So like even where I work at the University of Trinidad and Tobago right now, I'm doing a degree in kinesiology. Every single student who are supposed to be the next coaches, the next team managers, the next teachers are very much aware of parasport, para-athletics, and some of the stuff that it entails. And then we're hosting workshops, right, that are in connection with the IDB and the ELI program via the IPC. So we have done the first one at the University of Trinidad and Tobago campus in San Fernando, and we have 4 more that spans over different parts of Trinidad and Tobago when we come back from the Paralympics.
Mm-hmm. And what do these conferences or seminars?
All right, so these workshops are to ensure that people have an idea of what para-athletics is, first of all. What are the different type of sports? What are the different disabilities and some of the limitations to if you have this disability that would qualify you, right? And it also helps to train coaches, administrators, and athletes, get them their first taste and they dip their feet into the sport so that they can have an idea of which one they like.
Mm-hmm. I should have started off with that. What's the definition of Paralympics?
All right, so as you said that, so because people have a tendency to have a misconception between Paralympics and Special Olympics. They think they're one and the same, right? So for the most part, Paralympics is for people with mostly physical disabilities. There's one intellectual impairment category in parasport, and with Special Olympics, it's mostly intellectual disabilities. So people who have specific physical disabilities, and there are lots of categories, right? They are the ones who compete in parasports. That's where it's at.
As opposed to Special Olympics.
Yes.
Yes. So if Trinidad had to improve or increase our level of participation in Paralympics, what would we need to do?
Okay, so this is the direction I would take for Trinidad improvement in sports in general, which filters straight into parasport, is that we need to build a proper base. So you need to have the programs in schools. You need to have athletes being trained from primary school, secondary school, because it's a 3-pronged program that is necessary to have continuity in sports, because we have no shortage of athletes who perform well, but we have a big lull in between when you have the group of all the good ones performing at one time, and then like how in my case we have had some retirements and then we have to work our way back up. So what I would suggest is make sure that there's a program where coaches are hired and vetted to coach in primary schools, secondary schools, because you can pick from a larger pool. As a parent, it will be easier for me to decide, say, okay, I'm going to send my kid to train at this school because I know that there is some vetting process and my kid is safer than if it is I say, okay, let's send them to a club. Because club has their place, and I would point out where that place falls in. Because the second step of the thing is you want to have two areas in two directions in where your recruited kids and recruited athletes can go. So one would be obviously to who wants to go overseas to college. So they must have a pathway set for that, because there's certain expertise that would take us many years to develop in Trinidad. And you need to have a pathway instead of waiting on that athletes can get into scholarships where you have better jumps program for like pole vault and stuff like that, right? While our coaches are developing here, because we have some good jumps coaches here, but we don't have many pole vault coaches and stuff like that. And then the other one you would have is like the universities in Trinidad and Tobago. You need to have a proper university program for those who opt not to go over to the universities in the States, that they can come and train with some of the high level coaches, right? In Trinidad and Tobago at UTT, UWI, COSTAT, these universities, right? So that the coaches can also grow and develop with them. And then the next step is where the clubs will come in. After an athlete leaves high school or college, they can now compete for these clubs to continue on and maintain themselves. Because one of the things that Jamaica has that you don't see very often in Trinidad is that athletes who come to a track to train never gets to experience what is the benefit of being a professional athlete, right? So like in Jamaica, when I come to a training track, there's Mercedes-Benz and Range Rovers and stuff parked up in front there. So I know if it is I work hard, because they get to see you lying on the track throwing up. But in the parking lot, they get to see part of what this means. So if I do this, I can end up with this. So it changes your whole outlook. Because plenty of professional athletes want to come home and train, but they have a complaint that because there are so much kids on the track, remember this is their job and their profession. I'm sure for you, even in your profession, if there is a preschool going on in your living room while you're working, it's going to be very distracting and it's going to interfere with your work. So you need to find a way to separate the clubs a bit from too much of the younger athletes, so that business could be done as business and the schools could take care of the other part.
Well, that's an interesting comment you've made, because I've heard a lot of people say that they do not have access to our stadia. We have 11 stadia in this country, and a lot of people who are athletes will say that, they do not have access. But you're saying that pity to train in a particular environment and therefore feel comfortable in that environment. So you're saying that isn't happening. So what do you think is the long-term impact of para sports on Trinidad and Tobago? What is the long-term? What will happen in the long term?
Right. So the long-term impact of para sport will do a few things, a few important things, right? It will foster interest, right, in the disabled community, because it will not just give them an avenue to get fitter and healthier and compete in sports, because the para sport movement is not just about the competitive side. There's a recreational side as well, right? But it also fosters cohesiveness between both the disabled community and the rest of the country. Because even in the sphere of para sport, there are guides, there are coaches who need not have a disability, right? So it brings the country closer together, for one. Plus, it gives means and opportunity for the entirety of the community to be more healthier and fitter.
How can we create a more images reflect on what used to happen with football when I was growing up. That, I mean, intercall was a thing that we went to. I went to see football being played in the savannah. So, and it seems if we've lost that. How can we create a more inclusive sports culture in our country?
All right, so this is going to sound a little strange, but it's a simple concept. All right, so if I asked you, which school is your alma mater? You'll be able to tell me that off the bat. You'll be able to tell me who was your biggest rival. If you ask the normal person on the street, which club is your alma mater? They can't tell you that because they are not affiliated with that. So when there's a competition, be it a football competition, a track and field competition, you will find that our stadiums are mostly empty because there's not a connection between the competitions that are going on and the people who you want to come and pay that money at the gate that will maintain our stadiums and that will cause the sponsors to want to come out and sponsor because there's a large viewership of it, right? So what you have to do is try to make sure that the person on the street is attached to the people that are actually competing, whether be it via the school they used to compete and not just my child is competing. Because to know that my friends are going to be there who I haven't seen in years, I'm going to come out. It's a line, Trinidad to line. They're going to come out for that line. And in turn, you will find plenty things changing. You will find the stadiums are being filled. There's going to cause more jobs because people are going to come out to the stadium, full up all these stalls to the bottom to sell their stuff. And then you're going to find people selling old school uniforms and school ties and knicks and knacks to support these athletes. And it works into sports tourism very well, and it helps solve the problem that you were asking about.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about sports tourism, what in your mind you see in Trinidad promoting sports tourism? Will that be specific? How do you see us promoting that?
All right, so Trinidad has a lot of things that works for us that are not being utilized. We have a lot of facilities, right? More than most Caribbean places, right? We have the weather that is conducive to training for high-level sport, right? So as far as sports tourism go, this is supposed to be a destination that people say, well, hey, when the time winter hits overseas, they jump on a plane with their team or their camp and they head over to Trinidad and utilize our facilities, some hotels, what have you, and spend their income here, right? They come and they participate in tasting our food and doing all different things while they are here for the entirety of the winter time when it's cold outside. Because the facilities are very good facilities when they are in good condition. And there's a lot of them that you can have people at different locations so that two camps don't feel like, all right, this one's going to be spying on me if I'm training there, right? And that is how sports tourism works. You will find the brands coming into the country. If you have people sponsored by Adidas and Nike coming to train down here, the brand will want more visibility here to add people to these camps. So the brands will come into the country and start to sponsor community clubs and schools and stuff like that. These are the kind of simple things that you need to do that it pulls. I was listening to the earlier speaker with all the US business. It pulls US dollars into our country, right? So it makes more jobs. It makes it easier for sponsors to want to come on board, and that's how it's supposed to go as sports tourism.
Improving our sports performance.
I missed the first part. I just had the last part of the segment.
The last part, I was asking you, what role do you see our private sector playing in improving our sports performance?
Okay, well, the private sector is always very important because I don't believe that the government could do everything and see everything everywhere, right? And it works out best if the private sector, like specific areas, they would be able to have a better relationship with that particular community or particular area, that if private sector are involved, you can have them sponsoring specific clubs and drawing more of a light to this one, because if I am sponsoring your football team or your track team, right? First of all, I'm going to want to advertise on your jerseys and your stuff like that. But apart from that is when these sponsors are doing their advertisements, because they are sponsoring you, they are going to shine a bigger light on sport, because you're going to hear advertisement with this sport club, that sport club. Every time you hear a courts advertisement, it has something to do with whatever team they're sponsoring. So it shines more of a light on the sport, apart from just the financial assistance they will get, which can develop our sport a lot faster.
What are you hoping will happen as the chef de mission in France? When you come back, what would you be saying to Trinidad and Tobago?
Right, so I'll be saying the same thing to Trinidad and Tobago that I'm saying before I leave, right? I'm just hoping that it's the performances of our athletes increases awareness, it increases our cohesiveness within the country, right? And it gives people that added distraction that takes them away from stuff that you need not be doing, So instead of an athlete walking down the road and saying, yeah, boy, I want to be like that bad boy down there, you remember, say, hey, I saw somebody competing on TV and I want to be like that. So these are the kind of things, because success is measured in a lot of different ways, right? So success for me with this Paralympic team that is going out there could be the performance that the athlete feels that is comfortable, that makes them happy, a performance that makes the Trinidad and Tobago elated to know that, yes, one of our own just did this, but also a performance that draws more young people, older people, people with disabilities and people without, towards sport and more legal means of activities.
And as you reflect on your past as an athlete, what advice do you have to give to any young person listening to this about participating in any kind of athletic event?
Well, my advice to them would be, you need to know that sport does not just build you physically, but it builds your character, right? So the more you participate in sport, you learn how to win, you learn how to lose, and you learn that it takes work to get to where you need to be and where you want to be. So when you, as I would tell my daughter, say, when you participate in any kind of physical activity, you are training yourself for life. So I would advise them to just get out there and start training yourself for life. Find some sport to do.
What a wonderful statement, that sports helps you to train yourself for life. Your parting comments.
Yeah, well, my parting comments, I just want to say that as being a part of the Trinidad and Tobago Paralympic Committee, right, to the disabled community, firstly, that there are good people who love you and want to see you improve, want to see you have a better way of life. Yes, and it's good for you to aspire to something bigger than people thought you could be, and that would be me for the day.
Thank you very much, Mickey, and all the best in your journey. And I sincerely hope that you will come back here. When you come back, you will make a difference and you will contribute to ensuring that sports becomes part of our way of life. Thank you very much, Mickey.